Tonight, you live in a Viking village during the longest winter. Tonight, the cold has already killed the fire in 3 houses. Beyond the walls of the village, snow has swallowed every path. The sea is beginning to freeze, and the sun has not appeared for days. Somewhere in the darkness, a ship that should have returned weeks ago is still missing. But you are not going out to search for it. Tonight, you are safe inside the longhouse. The doors have been barred. The animals are sleeping close to the walls. A low fire burns beneath the smoke-darkened roof. And outside, the winter may rage for as long as it wishes. Over the next few hours, you will live as the people of this village live through the longest nights of the year. You will hear how they sleep, what they eat, how they keep a single flame alive, and what they believe waits beyond the frozen darkness. There is nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to do. Let the storm remain outside. Pull the woolen blanket closer, listen to the fire, and allow this ancient winter to carry you slowly into sleep. Tonight, you live in a Viking village during the longest winter. The path beneath your feet has almost vanished. Only a shallow hollow in the snow shows where people have walked between the houses. Even that hollow is fading as fresh flakes sweep across it, driven sideways by the wind. The village lies on a low rise above the shore. In summer, voices carry easily from the boats. Tonight, you can barely see the water. The darkness has turned the coast into a single black edge. A row of longhouses faces the harbor, each roof bowed beneath snow. Their walls are made from timber, turf, stone, or some mixture of all 3, depending on what the land has provided. Smoke seeps through small gaps in the roof and disappears into the storm. There are no bright glass windows. Light escapes only through doorways, cracks, and narrow openings covered by shutters or stretched skin. From a distance, the houses resemble low shapes sleeping beneath white blankets. A few lamps burn near the doors. A dog moves through the snow, pauses to look towards you, then turns and disappears behind the shelter of a wall. Somewhere near the edge of the settlement, an axe strikes wood once, then again, and then falls silent. The people here do not waste strength in winter. Before you reach the longhouse, the path carries you past a low workshop built into a bank of earth. Its doorway is open only a hand's width, yet a red glow pulses within. A smith is finishing the final work of the day. He lifts a small piece of iron with tongs, and every slow strike sends a brief spark into the darkness. Iron is precious here. A nail, rivet, knife edge, buckle, or hook may have traveled far before reaching this village. Even broken metal is kept. A damaged tool may return as something smaller, but still useful. Beside the workshop stands a shed filled with timber. Curved ribs for boats rest against one wall. Long planks are raised above the snow. A half-finished steering oar lies beneath a hide. The village does not stop building because the sea has frozen. Winter is when tools are repaired, ropes are twisted, sails are mended, and timber is shaped for the season when the water opens again. The ships on shore are quiet, but the work that will return them to the sea continues in firelight. Farther along, sheep huddle beneath a shelter. Beyond them, dark trees begin where the cleared land ends. The forest provides timber, fuel, bark, resin, game, and protection from wind. At night, it also hides distance. A long call rises from beyond the fields. A dog near the houses answers. The sound may be a wolf or another dog carried strangely by the weather. No one runs towards it. No one reaches for a weapon. The people simply listen until the call fades. Then the village returns to its work. Every movement matters. Every armful of wood matters. Every ember matters. You continue towards the largest longhouse in the center of the settlement, where several families have gathered for the night. The building belongs to the household of Eric, one of the wealthier men in the village. He is not a king, and the people around him are not subjects in the way later centuries might understand the word. His influence comes from land, animals, ships, tools, alliances, and the ability to feed others when the weather turns dangerous. Tonight, the size of his roof matters more than the silver stored in his chest. 3 households have already come here because their own fires failed. The closer you come, the more you can hear. Not voices at first, but the life of the building itself. Wood settles in the cold. An animal shifts its weight behind a wall. Wind presses against the roof and moves along it like a hand. Then the door opens, and warm orange light falls across the snow. A man stands in the doorway holding a small lamp. For a moment, he sees only a dark figure against the storm. He raises the light, and the flame bends behind its thin protective panel. You step forward, and the tension in his shoulders eases. There is no long conversation at the threshold. Winter is not the season for leaving a door open. He draws you inside, pushes the heavy wooden door shut, and lowers the bar into place. The storm disappears at once, not completely, but enough to feel as though you have crossed into another world. The first thing you notice is the warmth. It is not the even warmth of a modern room. The air beside the central fire is hot, while the walls remain cold enough for frost to gather in hidden corners. The second thing you notice is the smoke. It hangs beneath the roof in a dark layer, finds cracks in the thatch, and escapes slowly into the night. Your eyes begin to adjust. The longhouse is narrow and deep, with a central aisle running between raised wooden platforms. The fire burns in a long hearth rather than a round one. Above it, an iron pot hangs from a chain. Shadows move across the roof beams whenever the flames shift. People sit along the platforms, wrapped in wool, fur, and heavy cloaks. At one end of the building, cattle stand behind a low partition. Their breath warms the air. A goat chews slowly in the darkness. The animals are not visitors. They are part of the household economy, and on a night like this, their bodies also help keep the building alive. The longhouse smells of smoke, damp wool, leather, animals, cooked grain, and the faint salt of dried fish. At first, the mixture is strong. Then your senses settle. This is not the smell of discomfort to the people around you. It is the smell of shelter. A place has been prepared for you near the wall. A folded woolen cloak lies on the sleeping platform, with a fur beneath it and another blanket rolled at the side. You sit, and the boards creak quietly. The warmth of the fire reaches your hands first. No one asks you to speak. That is a kindness. The people of the house understand tiredness, cold, and silence. A woman passes you a wooden cup filled with something warm. It is not sweet. It is thin broth made from barley, herbs, and a little fat. The heat matters more than the flavor. You hold the cup between both hands and feel your fingers begin to relax. Across the hearth, an older man watches the fire. His beard is gray and uneven. He wears a woolen tunic fastened with a simple brooch, and his hands carry the marks of rope, tools, and weather. He is not looking at you. He is listening to the roof. Every winter has its own voice. Some winters creak with deep cold and long stretches of stillness. Others roar. This one roars. The old man tilts his head as a stronger gust strikes the western wall. A child beside him looks up. No one speaks, but several people glance towards the roof beams. The timbers hold. The child looks back at the fire. The adults return to their work. A woman repairs a mitten with a bone needle and wool thread. A young man sharpens a small knife, drawing a stone along the edge with slow, careful movements. Winter evenings are not empty. They are filled with small tasks that cannot be delayed. A torn mitten can become a frozen hand. A loose roof peg can become a lost section of thatch. A cracked bowl can waste the last warm meal of the day. A damaged shoe can turn a short walk into an injury. A forgotten ember can leave an entire household in darkness. Here, survival is made from details. The village prepared for this winter long before the first snow. In late summer, grass was cut and dried for the animals. Fish were hung in smoke or salted when salt was available. Grain was harvested, ground, stored, and guarded from damp. Meat was dried, smoked, or preserved. Berries were gathered. Roots were lifted from the earth. Wood was cut in quantities that seemed enormous before winter and already feel dangerously small now. Every household measures the cold in practical terms. How many sacks of grain remain? How many bundles of hay? How many jars of butter? How many nights the woodpile can survive? The longest winter is not defined by one dramatic storm. It is defined by counting. A handful less grain each morning. One fewer log each night. A lamp kept low because oil cannot be replaced until spring. A portion of meat divided among more people than expected. A family choosing to sleep under another roof rather than burn its final dry wood. Winter becomes dangerous slowly. The broth in your cup is part of that calculation. It contains enough to warm you, but not enough to waste. The woman who served it knows precisely how much barley she used. She also knows how much remains. When the evening meal is ready, the iron pot is lifted from the hearth. Steam rises into the smoke. Food is shared into wooden bowls. Thick porridge made from barley or oats, flavored with onion, herbs, and small pieces of meat. There is dried fish as well, softened near the heat. The meal is simple. It is also carefully earned. Nothing in the bowl arrived easily. The grain grew in uncertain soil, the fish came from dangerous water, and the meat was raised through seasons of labor. You eat slowly. Around you, conversation remains quiet. People speak of animals, weather, repairs, and the condition of the shore. No one mentions the missing ship at first. Its absence sits in the room without being named. Everyone knows which men sailed on it. Everyone knows which households are waiting. Everyone knows when it should have returned. The ship left before the first hard frost. It carried hides, rope, carved wooden goods, and a little iron to a trading place farther south. It was expected back while the sea was still open. Then the weather changed. A storm moved down from the north. The wind remained strong for 3 days. After that came snow, then more snow. The ship did not appear. At first, people said it had waited in a sheltered bay. Then they said it might have turned towards another harbor. Later, they stopped offering guesses. Now, the harbor is beginning to freeze. Ice forms first along the quiet edges, around rocks and posts. Each night, the pale skin reaches farther across the dark water. Soon, even a returning ship might struggle to enter. Eric sits near the central post. He is broad-shouldered, perhaps 40 years old, with fair hair tied behind his head. A small iron key hangs at his belt. The key opens a chest, but the more important wealth tonight hangs from the rafters. Fish, meat, bundles of herbs, sacks kept above the damp floor. Eric speaks briefly to the old man near the fire. Their voices are low, but you hear enough. The western storehouse has begun to leak where snow has pressed against the roof. 2 men will inspect it before dawn. If the wind becomes worse, they will wait. No one risks a life for a roof unless waiting would risk many more lives. That is one of winter's quiet rules. Courage is not always walking into danger. Sometimes courage is knowing when to remain beside the fire. Sometimes wisdom is measured by what you choose not to do. The people around you understand that survival rarely looks dramatic while it is happening. Most of the time, it looks like patience. The meal ends. Bowls are scraped clean. A dog receives a bone. Children move closer to the hearth as the adults settle into the long evening. There are no clocks here. Time is measured by tasks, hunger, fatigue, fire, and darkness. The night does not need a number. It only needs to be crossed. You lean back against the wall. The woolen cloak beneath your shoulders holds a little warmth. Your breathing slows. Outside, the storm presses snow against the door. Inside, the fire makes a soft collapsing sound. A charred log settles. Orange sparks rise and vanish into the smoke. For several moments, everyone watches them. The old man finally speaks. He says that when he was young, a winter came so hard that the fjord froze from shore to shore. People walked across places where ships had sailed. A horse fell through thin ice and was never seen again. The children listen. The adults continue working, but they listen too. Winter stories are not told only for entertainment. They carry warnings, memories, and instructions. The old man describes how his mother kept one coal alive beneath ash for 3 days when no dry wood remained. She wrapped the hearth with stones and fed the ember tiny shavings from the inside of a split beam. On the 4th morning, a neighbor brought peat. The household survived. A little girl asks whether the neighbor survived as well. The old man smiles. He says the neighbor became his father. The room warms with quiet laughter. This is how memory survives. Not always in books, not always in monuments, but beside fires, in voices moving from one generation to the next. You look around the longhouse. The roof above you is blackened by years of smoke. Carved marks appear on one beam. Some are practical cuts. Others may be protective signs, old symbols, or simple records made by hands now forgotten. The people here do not spend every day raiding or sailing. Most are farmers, fishers, craftspeople, traders, parents, and neighbors. For much of the year, their survival depends more on hay than on swords. The spear near the door matters, but so do the spindle, the loom weights, the fishing line, and the grain chest. A woman near the wall works at a narrow band of woven wool. Her fingers move with steady patience. The band may become a belt, an edging, or a tie. Every useful object begins as labor. Sheep must be kept alive. Wool must be cleaned, teased, spun, and woven. A warm cloak represents many hours of work before it reaches a shoulder. The blanket around you is heavy and slightly rough, but it is also the reason you can sit near a cold wall without shivering. The children grow drowsy. One boy tries to keep his eyes open while listening to the old man. His head lowers, rises, then lowers again. His mother draws a blanket over him without interrupting her stitching. There are no separate bedrooms. Families sleep along raised platforms, divided by chests, curtains, or simple custom. Privacy exists, but in forms shaped by space and necessity. Everyone hears the same storm. The animals hear it too. One of the cattle shifts behind the partition. Its hoof scrapes the floor. A man rises, checks the tether, and returns without a word. Keeping animals indoors creates work and mess. It also protects wealth. A healthy cow may provide milk, calves, leather, bone, horn, and meat. Losing one to cold can weaken a household for years. The goat coughs. The dog opens one eye. The fire burns lower. Someone adds a split log. The sound of the storm changes. The deep roar fades. In its place comes a thinner whistle moving through the roof. Eirik looks up again. A young woman enters from the inner partition, carrying a small lamp. She says, "Snow is pushing beneath the northern wall. The bedding there has been moved. In the morning, they will pack more turf outside. Turf walls are heavy, but they hold warmth well. Where timber is limited, earth itself becomes part of the house. In winter, the boundary between building and hill nearly disappears beneath snow. The longhouse becomes part shelter, part landscape. You imagine the village from above. Low roofs, thin lines of smoke, dark walls buried in white. Boats pulled far beyond the winter tide. The village is small enough that every light is known. When one disappears, people notice. Tonight, 3 houses have lost their fires. That does not mean they are empty. The families from those houses have come here. Their own hearths went cold after damp fuel failed and wind entered through damaged roofs. Rather than consume their last dry wood, they joined the larger household. In winter, independence has limits. A woman named Sigrid sits near the animals with 2 children asleep beside her. Her house is one of the 3. She left behind furniture, tools, and most of her stores. She brought food, blankets, and the iron hook used to hang her cooking pot. She expects to return when the storm passes. Still, each gust reminds her that part of the roof may fail. She does not say this aloud. Her hands remain folded in her lap. The longhouse holds more than warmth. It holds uncertainty, yet uncertainty does not need to become panic. People make space, share bowls, and move closer together. The old man begins another story. This one concerns a farmer who complained through an entire winter. He complained about snow, then rain, then mud, then summer heat. At last, the gods offered him perfect weather. The farmer accepted. His fields grew tall, but when harvest came, every stalk was empty because no wind had strengthened the grain. The old man ends by saying that hardship teaches roots to hold. One of the adults says the story is nonsense. The old man agrees. Then everyone laughs again. Stories do not need to be believed. In the same way, a roof must be trusted. Some stories explain, some warn, some simply help the night pass. And tonight, the night is very long. The fire is banked for sleep. Large pieces of wood are arranged carefully. Ash is drawn around the coals to slow their burning. The aim is not a bright flame, but a living one. A night fire must last. Too much heat now means cold before dawn. Too little air means smoke and dead embers. Someone must wake to tend it. The duty passes between adults. A carved stick marks the order. Tonight, you are not asked to take a turn. You are a guest, and the house has placed you under its protection. The lamps are lowered. Shadows deepen along the walls. One by one, people prepare to sleep. Boots are loosened but kept close. Outer cloaks become blankets. Belts are folded near the head. Knives remain within reach, not because attack is expected, but because tools are valuable and personal. A person does not leave good iron carelessly on the floor. You lie down on the platform. Beneath you are boards, woven material, fur, and straw. The bedding is not perfectly soft. It is warm enough. The roof above disappears into smoke. The fire becomes a red line. Beyond the wall, snow moves against earth with a faint brushing sound. You close your eyes. For a while, sleep almost comes. Then the dog lifts its head. Its ears rise. A low sound begins in its throat. Several people wake at once. No one speaks loudly. Eirik reaches towards the spear near the door. The dog stares into the darkness. The wind has weakened. In the new quiet, another sound becomes clear. 3 knocks against wood. Slow, uneven. Not on the main door, farther away, near the outer yard. The knocks come again. Then silence. Eirik gestures to 2 men. They pull on cloaks, lift lamps, and move towards the entrance. The door opens only wide enough for them to pass. Cold enters like water. Snow swirls across the floor. The bar drops back into place. Everyone listens. The dog remains standing. A child begins to whisper, but a mother places one finger to her lips. Minutes pass. The fire shifts. The wind returns. Then the door shakes beneath a fist. The men are allowed inside. With them comes no stranger, only snow. One of them carries a broken length of rope. It had been striking the side of a shed. The wind had loosened it from a post. The rope is stiff with ice. The dog sniffs it, circles once, and lies down. The room breathes again. No one mocks the fear. In a storm, ordinary objects learn how to sound like warnings. A rope becomes a hand at the door. Eirik hangs the rope near the hearth to thaw. The men return to their places. The lamps are lowered once more. The house settles. You close your eyes again. This time, you notice the many small rhythms beneath the silence. Breathing, animals shifting, embers cracking, snow brushing the wall, the slow wooden voice of the roof. Rain would sound different. So would hail. Snow has a softer voice, but it changes the weight above the house. The people sleeping around you know this without thinking. A roof does not usually collapse without warning. Timbers bend, pegs loosen, snow slides. A person awake beside the fire learns to listen for all of it. The first watch belongs to Eirik's sister, Astrid. She sits wrapped in a dark cloak, feeding the hearth thin pieces of wood. Her face appears and disappears in the glow. She is older than Eirik and carries herself with the calm of someone accustomed to being obeyed without demanding it. Astrid manages much of the household store. She knows which chest holds grain, which barrel has begun to leak, which children need new shoes, and how much hay remains. Authority does not always stand at the center of a feast. Sometimes it kneels beside a sack and measures what is left. Sometimes it wakes before everyone else to check whether the fire is still alive. Sometimes it speaks quietly enough that only the right person hears. You wake briefly to the sound of a spoon against iron. Astrid is warming a little broth for herself. She notices your open eyes. Without speaking, she pours some into your cup. The drink is weaker than before, mostly hot water, touched by grain and herbs. Still, warmth moves through you. You thank her quietly. She asks whether the storm is like those in your homeland. You answer that every land has winter, but not every winter feels like this. Astrid looks towards the wall. She says this one began too early. The autumn had been wet. Hay dried slowly. Several fishing days were lost. Then frost came before the last boats returned. She does not mention the missing ship directly. Instead, she says her eldest son is at sea. The words are simple. They need no explanation. You look at the rope thawing near the fire. Water drips from it. Astrid follows your gaze and gives a tired smile. Every sound, she says. Every sound makes the heart choose hope before sense. She returns to the hearth. There is nothing you can say that would improve the night, so you remain quiet. Sometimes company is more useful than comfort. Sometimes the kindest thing is simply to stay near the fire while another person waits. Astrid tells you about her son when he was small. He once tried to build a boat from a wooden bowl. He carried it to the shore, placed a beetle inside, and pushed it into the water. The bowl sank immediately. He cried for the beetle. Then he blamed the sea. Astrid laughs softly at the memory. The sound is warm, but it does not last long. She adds another piece of wood. The fire opens, brightens, then settles. Beyond her, the rest of the household sleeps. The storm continues far beyond the walls. You begin to understand why long winter nights produce stories. Darkness gives memory room. The body is still. The hands are occupied. People speak of the absent because silence makes them more present. They repeat familiar events. A childhood mistake, a successful hunt, a foolish boast, a song sung badly, a promise made beside a boat before the sea turned cold. Through repetition, a missing person remains part of the house. The ship may be beyond the horizon, but its crew still sits beside the fire in words. Their places have not yet been surrendered. Astrid's watch ends. She wakes the young man who sharpened the knife earlier. His name is Leif. He takes her place with the stiff movements of someone pulled from deep sleep. Astrid lies down near her children. Leif stretches his hands towards the hearth. He looks too young to carry responsibility, and old enough to know that he must. The firelight catches the worry in his eyes. You drift again. The storm moves farther away. The village enters the deepest part of night. And somewhere beyond the frozen harbor, the missing ship remains beneath the same dark sky. When you wake again, the longhouse is almost completely dark. Leif has banked the fire too deeply. Only a dull red glow remains beneath the ash, and for a moment the room feels colder than it should. He kneels close to the hearth, blowing through a narrow tube. Nothing happens. Then a tiny orange point appears. Leif adds dry shavings. A thread of smoke rises. The ember brightens. The flame catches. Small, fragile, alive. Leif closes his eyes in relief. He glances around to see whether anyone noticed. The old man is already awake. He raises one eyebrow. Leif looks embarrassed. The old man says nothing. He reaches for another piece of dry wood and places it beside the hearth. The lesson is given without humiliation. A firekeeper who fears mistakes may hide them. A firekeeper who learns can save a house. Leif nods once. The old man returns to his blanket. Dawn does not arrive suddenly. There is no brilliant sunrise breaking across the snow. The darkness merely becomes less complete. Edges return. People begin waking before the day is truly visible. The cattle need attention. The door must be cleared. The roof must be checked. The first person outside pushes against the door and finds snow packed against it. Two others help. The door opens slowly, carving a narrow path through the drift. Cold blue light enters. The storm has passed. Cloud still covers the sky. The village appears changed. Roofs, fences, boats, and paths have been reshaped into smooth white forms. The harbor is almost hidden. A pale layer of ice reaches across much of the inlet. Farther out, the water remains dark. No sail stands against the horizon. People step into the morning. They carry shovels, wooden boards, axes, baskets, ropes, and hooks. No one wastes time admiring the snow. Beauty will still be there after the work begins. You follow them outside. The cold bites quickly after the smoke-warm longhouse. Your breath becomes visible. The wool around your shoulders stiffens where damp has gathered. The village works in silence at first. Paths are reopened between houses. Snow is pulled from weak roofs. Animals are checked. At Sigrid's house, part of the thatch has fallen inward. The main beams remain. Relief appears on her face before disappointment. A roof can be repaired. Inside, bedding is damp. A chest has been protected by a hide. The hearth is dead. Sigrid lifts the iron hook she left hanging above it and carries it outside. No one tells her to be grateful. No one tells her it could have been worse. They simply begin helping. Two men climb towards the damaged roof. A woman carries wet wool back towards the large longhouse. Children gather scattered pieces of thatch. Someone clears snow from the doorway. The house remains part of the village, because the village acts as though it does. This is another form of winter wealth, not silver, not livestock. People who arrive with tools before being asked. By mid-morning, The sky lightens enough to reveal the ridge above the harbor. A watcher climbs it. He carries no heavy equipment, only a cloak, spear, and horn. From the top, he can see beyond the inlet. Everyone notices him climbing. No one stops working. Hope cannot be allowed to consume the day. The village must survive whether the horizon offers an answer or not. Near the shore, men break thin ice around the posts, not because they expect to sail immediately. The boats have already been drawn onto land. They break the ice to protect moorings, traps, and access to water. Wood strikes the frozen surface. A crack runs outward. Dark water rises through the opening. The sound carries across the village. You walk closer to the shore. Frozen spray coats the rocks. Ropes hang stiff from posts. A small boat rests upside down beneath snow. Its shape is graceful, even on land. Narrow, light. Built to move over water rather than resist it. Ships are among the great achievements of the Viking Age, but every hull begins with wood, iron, cordage, patience, and shared knowledge. The missing vessel is larger, not a huge warship crowded with shields, but a sturdy sailing boat suited to trade and coastal travel. Its crew knows currents, landmarks, stars, winds, seabirds, and the changing colors of water. Knowledge reduces danger. It does not remove it. The watcher reaches the ridge. He stands facing the sea. For a long time, he does not move. Below, several people pretend not to look. Astrid stands near the storehouse with a basket in her hands. She watches openly. The watcher raises the horn. A single note crosses the snow. Not the signal for a ship. The note means clear horizon. Nothing seen. Astrid lowers her eyes. The village returns to work. You follow Eric towards the western storehouse. Snow has pressed against one wall. The roof leaks where a wooden peg has shifted. Inside, the air smells of grain and damp earth. Sacks are moved away from the leak. The damaged section is inspected. A man climbs carefully onto the roof, while others support the ladder. Repair in winter is slower. Fingers lose strength. Wood can split. A fall that might bruise in summer can kill in deep cold. The work is done without hurry. The damaged peg is replaced. Fresh thatch is packed beneath the opening. Turf is pressed over it. Inside, Astrid checks the sacks. One has become damp. The grain is spread near the hearth to dry. Nothing is thrown away. Mold, rot, and pests are enemies no less dangerous than snow. A household can survive one storm and still lose food slowly in darkness. Storage requires constant attention. So does survival. By midday, a pale circle appears behind the cloud. The sun remains low. Its light touches the village without warming it. Shadows stretch long across the snow. Children are allowed outside once the paths are safe. They run between houses. Their games begin as work and become something else. One carries small pieces of wood. Another clears snow with a board. Then one throws a handful at another, and the path becomes a field of laughter. Adults do not stop them. Winter cannot be permitted to own every sound. A village that never laughs is already colder than the weather. You help carry dry bedding from the longhouse to Sigrid's home. The hearth there is cleaned. A coal is brought in a covered pot. Thin shavings are arranged above it. Sigrid kneels and blows gently. Smoke rises. The first flame appears. The three houses that lost fire in the storm will not all be restored today. One roof needs more work. Another household chooses to remain with relatives. But Sigrid's hearth lives again. She places the iron hook above it. A home is not restored by flame alone, yet flame is a beginning. And the people around her understand beginnings. The day passes through labor. Snow is cleared. Tools are repaired. Animals are fed. The missing ship remains absent. Still, the village cannot spend every hour facing the sea. Survival is built from attention to what is present. In the afternoon, women gather to divide wool and repair winter clothing. This is not a separate world from sailing or trade. Without warm clothing, no journey begins. Without woven sailcloth, no ship moves far. A spindle turns in one hand. Fiber becomes thread. Thread becomes cloth. Cloth becomes warmth, shelter, and motion. The work is repetitive. Its rhythm quiets the room. You sit nearby, listening to the soft pull of fiber and the low conversation around the hearth. They speak of dyes made from bark, roots, lichens, leaves, and imported materials. Color is not absent from the Viking world. Clothing may be red, blue, green, yellow, brown, or any number of softened shades. Bright color shows labor and resources, but winter mutes everything. Smoke deepens wool, dirt softens edges, firelight turns every color towards amber. A child asks whether the missing ship will return when the ice breaks. Astrid answers that ships return when wind, water, and men agree. The child thinks about this, then asks which of the three is most stubborn. Astrid says men. The room laughs. Even Eric smiles. Later, Eric opens the larger food chest, not the chest with silver, the one holding preserved meat, dried fish, and a small round of hard cheese. Tonight will be a better meal, not a feast, a deliberate strengthening of the household after the storm. Food can carry meaning. A larger portion tells tired people that the community has endured. It also reminds them that stores remain. Generosity, used carefully, can prevent fear from becoming division. The evening meal includes stew thickened with grain. There are pieces of meat. A little butter is melted into the pot. The smell fills the longhouse. Children wait with unusual patience. Even the dog behaves as though rules have become sacred. Before eating, Eric sets aside one small portion. It is placed in a bowl near the carved figure beside the post. No speech follows. The gesture is enough. The missing are remembered. The household eats. The second night begins. Outside, cloud breaks at last. Stars appear above the village. The cold deepens immediately. Clear skies in winter bring beauty and danger. Heat escapes. Snow hardens. Breath freezes on hair and beard. The sea reflects a few stars between sections of ice. On the ridge, another watcher stands beneath the sky. This time, Leif goes with him. You accompany them part of the way. The path climbs between dark rocks. Snow squeaks beneath your boots. The village shrinks below. Smoke rises straight from the roofs. The storm has left the air completely still. At the ridge, the world opens. The coast curves away into darkness. The sea reaches towards a horizon so clear that it seems cut from metal. Leif points to stars used for direction. Not every sailor navigates by one fixed method. They know patterns, seasonal positions, wind, waves, birds, sun, coastline, and memory. Navigation is not a trick. It is accumulated attention. The watcher studies the horizon. You study it too. At first, there is nothing. Above you, however, the darkness begins to change. A pale line appears across the northern sky. At first, it looks like cloud. Then it brightens. Green light gathers above the sea. It bends slowly, like a curtain moved by a wind too high to feel. Leif stops speaking. The watcher lowers his hands from the horn. For several moments, all three of you forget the empty horizon. The light forms long arcs across the stars, thins, and gathers again. Below, more villagers step outside. Small figures stand between the houses. Children point upwards. The old man raises both arms, as though greeting someone he expected. Later, he will claim the lights were shields crossing the sky. Astrid will say he invented that after the fact. For now, no one argues. The aurora moves above the frozen harbor. Green becomes pale silver. Silver disappears into darkness. People of the north have watched such lights for generations. Not everyone explains them in the same way. Some connect strange lights with spirits, battle, distant halls, or powers moving beyond the human world. Others simply know that the sky sometimes burns without fire. The old man once said it was Yggdrasil showing through the night, one branch of the great tree touching the edge of the visible world. Torsten had laughed. Yet even laughter does not fully remove wonder. Yggdrasil joins realms above, below, and around the human world. Its roots reach into deep places. Its branches hold worlds that cannot be seen from an ordinary field. Creatures move along it, carrying messages, damage, wisdom, and conflict. Odin seeks knowledge at terrible cost. Thor belongs to thunder, strength, protection, and the dangerous crossing of boundaries. Freya is connected with good seasons, fertility, peace, and the prosperity the village hopes will return with warmth. Freya carries beauty, desire, grief, and powers that refuse to fit neatly into one story. Far beyond the village, Jörmungandr lies around the world in the old tales. A serpent so vast that its body encircles the sea. No one beside you expects such a creature to rise from the harbor. The story is not a prediction. It is a way of imagining the scale and danger of water. The sea can carry wealth to one household and grief to the same door. A serpent around the world is not the only way to describe that power. It is one the people remember. The aurora fades. Darkness returns. The horizon becomes important again. No light waits upon it. The watcher finally turns towards the path. Halfway down the ridge, a shout rises from the frozen shore. Not alarm, a call for help. Several people are gathered near a line of broken ice. A boy checking a fish trap has found something caught between two rocks. It is a piece of worked timber. One edge is split. Two iron rivet holes remain. For a moment, no one speaks. A plank from a ship can travel far. Storms tear wood from boats, piers, houses, and old wrecks. The sea does not label what it returns. Astrid reaches the shore before the timber is fully cleared. She kneels and touches a thin line of faded red pigment. The missing ship carried painted wood along part of its upper hull. Several vessels along the coast use a similar color. The plank might belong to Torsten's ship. It might not. Eirik orders it carried into the boathouse, where the old carpenter examines the grain, shaping, and rivet spacing. He studies it for a long time. Then he shakes his head. The wood is oak. The missing vessel was built mainly from pine, with oak used only in thicker sections. This plank is too thin, and the rivet spacing is wrong. It came from another boat. Perhaps one lost years ago. Perhaps one broken farther south during the same storm. Relief enters the group carefully. No one celebrates. The timber proves nothing about the missing men. It removes only one fear. That is enough. Before the villagers leave, Leif notices prints in the snow beyond the rocks. A line of tracks follows the coast towards the trees. The dog lowers its nose. Wolf. Perhaps more than one. The tracks pass the harbor during the storm. No one follows them tonight. The animals will be checked, and the dogs kept close. This is not a hunt. It is information. Another presence moving through the same winter. Another life searching for food. Back inside the longhouse, the plank and the tracks become conversation. The young woman with the bowed instrument plays a few low notes. The music gives the room something calmer to follow. Astrid sits beside the fire, her hands still. The old man begins a story of Odin's ravens. Hugin and Munin travel across the world and return with news. Thought and memory, he calls them. Each morning, Odin sends them away. Each evening, he waits. The old man says, even a god understands what it means to depend upon a return. No one asks whether the story is meant for Astrid. The following day, a group enters the forest to collect storm-fallen timber. You go with them. The village disappears after only a short distance. Snow hangs from branches, and every footstep breaks the quiet. A small pine has fallen across a hollow. Its trunk remains sound. Resin is gathered from the split, while straight branches are set aside for pegs, handles, supports, and future repairs. The main trunk is cut only as much as needed for transport. Winter blocks many roads, but snow creates others. A loaded sledge moves over the white ground more easily than over summer earth. The group works slowly, loosening cloaks while cutting and wrapping them again before resting. Sweat can become dangerous once movement stops. A wolf calls deeper in the forest. The dog does not answer. Everyone pauses. Axes lowered. The sound comes only once. No one tells a story of battle. Wolves usually avoid a gathered group. The danger is respected without being enlarged. Work resumes. At the edge of the trees, a dark shape crosses the outer water. Every person stops. It is not a ship. A whale surfaces beyond the ice. Its back appears smooth and black. A breath rises like smoke. The animal surfaces again farther east, then disappears. The sea has offered another life, large and brief, but no answer. That night, the sky remains clear. You climb the ridge again with Leif and the Watcher. The aurora is gone. Stars stand sharply above the coast. The horizon appears empty. Then a light appears. Small, low, gone. Leif grips your arm. The Watcher says nothing. All three of you wait. The light appears again. Not a star. Too low. Moving. The watcher lifts the horn. This time he sounds 2 notes, then 2 more. Below, doors open. Figures move into the snow. Astrid is among them. The light vanishes again. Minutes pass. Hope becomes painful. Then a second light appears beside the first. A lantern, perhaps 2. The horn sounds the signal for a vessel. The village changes at once. Men run towards the shore. Women bring lamps. Ropes, hooks, poles and axes are gathered. The ice in the harbor is thin but widespread. If the ship is truly there, a path must be opened. People begin breaking the surface. The work is urgent, not loud. No one celebrates yet. The lights move closer. A dark shape emerges behind them. A mast, a furled sail. The ship is smaller than memory made it during the weeks of waiting. It also looks damaged. One side sits low. The crew calls from beyond the ice. Voices answer from shore. For the first time, Astrid shouts. Her son's voice returns, thin across the water. Alive, the ship cannot reach the beach. A smaller boat is dragged over the snow and lowered into the broken channel. Men push it through ice with poles. One trip brings 2 sailors. Another brings 3. The missing crew returns in pieces, each arrival counted. One man is injured. One is feverish. All are exhausted. There are fewer men than the village expected. A final crossing is made. The small boat returns with no one else. The ship lost 2 crewmen in the first storm. One was swept overboard. Another died days later after being struck by broken timber. Relief enters the village beside grief. Neither cancels the other. The living return. The dead return in words. Astrid's son steps onto shore. He is thinner. His beard is stiff with salt and frost. She touches his face with both hands. For a moment, the village watches. Then, people turn back to work. The injured must be carried inside. The damaged ship must be secured before ice crushes it. The sailors are taken to the large longhouse. Wet clothing is removed. Warm wool replaces it. Hot broth is given slowly. Too much heat, too much food, too quickly can harm a body weakened by cold and hunger. The household understands this through experience. Recovery is patient. So is survival. Astrid's son lies near the hearth. His name is Torsten. He tries to tell the story of the voyage, but sleep interrupts him after only a few sentences. The ship sheltered for days behind an island. Its mast was damaged. Food ran low. They repaired what they could. They waited for a wind that did not come. Then they sailed north through snow. Torsten falls asleep while describing a coastline hidden by fog. Astrid draws a blanket over him. She does not ask him to continue. The longhouse is full again, more crowded than before. Warmer. Outside, the damaged ship rests beyond the harbor ice. Its lanterns are dark. Its voyage is over. The 2 men who did not return are named. A bowl is placed near the carved figure. No one tells a heroic tale about their deaths. The sea took one. Injury took another. Their families will hear the truth. Grief in this world is not smaller because death is familiar. Familiarity does not make loss gentle. It only provides customs for carrying it. The old man begins speaking of the dead men as children. One stole eggs, the other feared geese. A sailor laughs despite himself, then others do. The laughter is not disrespect. It returns the dead to human size, not symbols, not legends. People who once ran from angry birds. The fire burns brighter tonight. More wood is used. The village accepts the cost. Sometimes survival requires saving. Sometimes it requires spending warmth freely. The household has waited long enough. Torsten wakes briefly. He asks whether the beetle survived. Astrid stares at him. Then she understands. He remembers the wooden bowl from childhood. She says the beetle became a great sea king. Torsten smiles. His eyes close again. You settle onto your sleeping place. The longhouse hums with exhausted life. Breathing, whispering, fire, animals, and the occasional cough of a returning sailor. Outside, the sky remains clear. The cold is severe, but the missing ship is missing no longer. The longest winter has not ended. There will be more snow, more counting, more nights. Yet something has changed. Uncertainty has taken a shape. The living are home. The dead have names. And for the first time in many weeks, Astrid sleeps before dawn. Morning comes pale and slow. The village wakes to the sound of tools beside the shore. The damaged ship lies beyond the harbor ice, its hull dark against the snow, its mast cracked near the base. Men gather around it in silence. The vessel will not sail again soon. The sail has been removed. Ropes are coiled and carried indoors to dry. Every piece that can be saved is saved. The ship brought back little cargo. Some hides remain. A small chest survived the voyage. Inside are metal tools, glass beads, folded cloth, and a little silver. These things matter. They represent trade, labor, distance, and risk. But no one looks at the chest for long. The people are watching the sailors. The true arrival is not the cargo. It is the men who returned. It is the news they carry. It is the proof that the sea did not keep everyone. Torsten wakes after sunrise. He tries to sit too quickly and has to stop. Astrid brings him broth and tells him to drink before he speaks. For once, he obeys without argument. His face is thinner than before he left. There is a bruise along one side of his head. One hand is wrapped in linen. He looks older than the season should have made him. Around the hearth, the returned crew begin to tell the story. Not all at once, not as a grand tale. The memories arrive in pieces. A wave that broke over the stern. A mast groaning in darkness. A sail cut loose before it pulled the ship over. A night spent close to rocks they could hear but could not see. The vessel reached a sheltered island after the first storm. There, the men waited. They repaired the mast with timber taken from a cargo frame. They burned part of a wooden chest for fuel. The weather did not improve. Food was rationed. Water was collected from snow. The men argued about whether to remain or risk the open sea. One wanted to sail east. Another wanted to follow the coast. A third believed the wind would change. The sea ignored all of them. Torsten speaks slowly. He does not pretend that everyone was brave. Some men panicked. Some became angry. Some sat in silence for hours. Fear did not make them useless. It made them human. They still repaired rope. They still took turns watching the water. They still kept the ship afloat. The two men who died are named again. One was swept away before anyone could reach him. The other lived for several days after the broken timber struck his ribs. He knew he would not return. He asked the crew to bring a message to his sister. The message is repeated exactly. No one adds poetry. No one changes the final words. Astrid listens with her hands folded. The old man watches the fire. Eirik asks practical questions about the hull, the sail, the cargo, and the coastline. Grief and work exist beside each other. In this village, sorrow does not stop the day. Animals must still be fed. Wood must still be cut. The dead are remembered while the living continue. By midday, the sailors sleep again. The longhouse becomes quieter. A child is told not to run near the hearth. The dog curls beneath Torsten's platform. Outside, the ship is examined. The hull has taken water along one side. Several boards are damaged. The iron rivets remain strong. Viking ships are built with overlapping planks. Each board lies partly over the next. This makes the hull flexible. It can move with the sea instead of resisting every wave. That flexibility helped bring the crew home. Now the same structure allows repairs. Damaged planks can be removed. New timber can be shaped to match the curve. The work will take time. Winter offers plenty of that. What it does not offer is warmth. The men begin by building a screen against the wind. Wooden poles are driven into packed snow. Hides are stretched between them. A small brazier is brought close enough to warm hands, but not close enough to damage the hull. Tools are laid out carefully. Axes, adzes, augers, knives, iron hammers. Each tool has a place. Each tool is valuable. Iron is not wasted. A broken blade may be reshaped into something smaller. You stand beside the ship and watch a carpenter examine the damaged planks. He runs his hand along the wood. He taps one section and listens. Then he marks it with charcoal. He does not rush. The ship has already survived a storm. Careless repair would insult that survival. The carpenter treats the hull like a living thing that must be understood before it is cut. Near the shore, children imitate the work. They find scraps of bark and pretend to build their own vessel. One child becomes the captain. Another insists on being the storm. The bark ship travels through a trench in the snow. It reaches a frozen puddle. The storm strikes. The captain blames the crew. Adults pretend not to listen. The old man finally tells the captain that a ship led by a fool deserves an honest storm. The children immediately remove the captain. The village laughs. The days settle into a new rhythm. The returned sailors recover. The ship is repaired slowly. The weather remains cold. Some mornings bring snow. Others bring hard, clear skies. The sun stays low. But the light lingers a little longer than before. The change is small. Still, people notice. A woman says she can finish spinning before the room darkens. A man says the chickens have begun making more noise. A child claims the sun has moved closer. The old man says the sun has been listening from behind the cloud. No one believes him. Everyone prefers his version. Winter becomes easier when the sky is allowed a personality. One afternoon, You help carry hay to the animals. The barn is low and dark. The air is warm with breath. Dust rises from the dry grass. Hay is not simply animal food. It is stored summer, sunlight cut from a field, warm months preserved beneath a roof. Every bundle consumed brings the village closer to spring. Every wasted handful matters. The animals eat slowly, unaware of the calculations surrounding them. A cow presses its nose against your sleeve. Its breath is wet and warm. A child laughs from the doorway. You step back before the animal decides your cloak is edible. The child shows you how to mix straw with dried leaves for bedding. The old material is carried outside. It will become part of a manure heap. Later, it will return to the fields. Nothing ends completely here. Waste becomes soil. Broken wood becomes fuel. Old cloth becomes wrapping. Bone becomes needle, handle, comb, or gaming piece. The village survives by seeing more than one use in every object. This is not poverty of imagination. It is the opposite. Scarcity teaches attention. Inside the longhouse, craftwork fills the darkest hours. A man repairs a wooden bowl with small metal staples. A woman carves a spoon. Leaf twists fibers into cord. Torsten sits near the fire with his injured hand resting in his lap. He dislikes being still. Astrid gives him wool to sort. He complains. She tells him he is free to return to sea immediately. Torsten looks towards the door. The wind strikes the wall. He begins sorting wool. Laughter moves through the room. The mood is lighter now, not because danger has passed, because uncertainty has become familiar. The people know what must be repaired. They know who returned. They know who did not. Knowledge can be painful, but it is easier to carry than endless waiting. At night, the sailors describe distant places, markets crowded with languages, harbors where ships from many lands stand together, towns where stone churches rise beside older sacred places. The village listens. Some have traveled, others never will. Still, the world enters through stories. One sailor describes a trader wearing bright silk. Another speaks of silver coins stamped with unfamiliar faces. A third remembers bread made from finer flour than any he has tasted. The children ask whether people in those places also fear winter. The sailor says everyone fears something. If not snow, then drought. If not darkness, then war. If not hunger, then the loss of what they already possess. The old man nods. He says comfort does not end fear. It only teaches fear new names. The room becomes quiet for a moment. Then someone asks about the bread again. The sailor admits it was not as good as Astrid's. Astrid says this proves the voyage damaged his judgment. The room relaxes. In the deepest weeks of winter, ordinary meals become landmarks. Morning porridge, midday broth, evening stew. People remember which night included cheese, which day a seal was caught, which morning the last dried apples were opened. Food shapes memory because hunger sharpens attention. A small sweetness becomes an event. A little butter changes the whole room. One evening, Astrid opens a small wooden box. Inside are dried berries, not many, enough to darken a pot of warm grain. The children notice immediately. So do the adults. No one asks why tonight. Astrid says, "The sailors have been home 7 days. The ship still stands. The wounded man has no fever. The dead have been named properly. That is enough reason. The berries are added. The porridge turns purple in the firelight. Everyone receives a little. The taste is sharp and faintly sweet. You eat slowly. The bowl warms your hands. For several breaths, the entire longhouse is silent. Pleasure does not need to be large. It needs to be noticed. The people here are skilled at noticing. Winter has trained them. After the meal, a game board appears. It is marked with lines and squares. Small pieces carved from bone and wood are placed carefully. 2 players sit opposite each other. The game resembles Hennefetafel, though rules vary from place to place. One side protects a king, the other surrounds him. The pieces move across the board like a memory of battle without blood. Leif plays first. He is impatient. He attacks too quickly. The old man defeats him in silence. Torsten takes Leif's place. His injured hand makes moving pieces awkward. He still wins. Astrid says the sea must have taught him patience. Torsten says the sea taught him not to play games with old men. The old man says Torsten has learned only half the lesson. The board remains between them until the lamps are lowered. Another night, music fills the longhouse. A small bowed instrument is brought from a chest. Its body is wooden. Its tone is rough, soft, and strangely close to the human voice. A young woman plays while someone else sings. The song concerns a journey, though not the missing ship. It is older. Its words have traveled farther than any person in the room. You do not understand every line. You understand the shape. Departure, danger, return. The fire sinks. The melody slows. Children fall asleep before the final verse. The singer lowers his voice rather than waking them. Music changes the longhouse. The same walls remain. The same smoke hangs beneath the roof. Yet the room feels wider. For a little while, the village contains mountains, roads, seas, and distant halls. Then the last note fades. The wind returns. The world narrows again to firelight. On another evening, the old stories become darker. The old man speaks of beings that inhabit wild places, land spirits, Draugr, the restless dead. He does not perform the story as a joke. Neither does he insist that every detail is true. The people listen in the way people listen, when a tale might contain more than entertainment. Winter draws the unseen world closer. Darkness lasts longer. Wind moves without a body. Tracks appear in snow and vanish before morning. A person hears a voice beyond the wall. A person dreams of the dead. A person wakes certain that someone has stood beside the bed. The longhouse offers warmth, but not complete certainty. A carved figure hangs near the main post. Its face is worn smooth. Perhaps it represents a god, perhaps an ancestor. Perhaps its meaning changed generations ago. No one explains it fully. Some things in a home are understood through use. A hand touches the carving before a journey. A child is warned not to move it. A little food is left nearby during danger. The people do not separate practical action from belief. They mend a sail and ask for favorable wind. They study clouds and offer thanks when a storm passes. They know that skill matters. They also know that skill is never enough to control the sea. Humility grows easily beside dangerous water. So do gods. Thor is spoken of when thunder rolls. Odin belongs to wisdom, poetry, war, and the restless pursuit of knowledge. Freyr is connected with fertility, prosperity, and good seasons. But belief is not identical in every village. Stories change, practices differ. A household may honor one power more than another. The world is not organized into one neat book. It lives in memory, ritual, custom, fear, and gratitude. The people know their gods through stories, objects, places, and acts, not through a single fixed explanation. In midwinter, the household prepares for a gathering. The storm damage has been repaired. The returned crew can stand and work. The stores remain sufficient. It is not abundance. It is enough, and enough, in the deepest dark, is worth marking. A sheep is chosen for slaughter. The decision is practical. The animal would consume more hay than the household can spare. Its meat will feed many. Its wool, hide, bones, sinew, and fat will all be used. Nothing is treated casually. The act is part necessity, part offering, part shared meal. Children are kept away from the first work, not because they do not understand death. They do. But because every household chooses what should be witnessed and when, the meat is prepared. Some will be eaten fresh. Some will be preserved. Fat is rendered. The hide is cleaned. The smell of cooking fills the longhouse for hours. Wooden benches are moved. Bowls are set out. A larger drinking vessel is brought from storage. People arrive from smaller houses. Snow is shaken from cloaks. Hands are warmed. The room fills until movement becomes careful. The gathering is not loud at first. Winter teaches people to save energy. But food, drink, and company slowly change the air. Voices rise. Stories repeat. Arguments are remembered. A sailor claims he saw a whale larger than a hill. No one believes him. He insists. The old man asks whether the whale also carried a house. The sailor says, "Only a small one." The room breaks into laughter. Ale is shared. It is weaker than modern drink, and precious enough to be measured. Cups pass from hand to hand. Toasts are made. Some honor the gods. Some honor the dead. Some honor the living simply because they are present. The order is less important than the act of remembering. Torsten lifts his cup to the two men lost at sea. His voice shakes only once. He tells the truth about them. Their courage, their fear, their mistakes, their jokes. The room listens without interrupting. Then the old man tells the story about the geese again. This time, he improves it. The dead man does not merely fear geese. He is chased across an entire field and loses one boot. His sister laughs while crying. That is the point. Grief has room for both. The dead are allowed to be ridiculous again. Later, the young woman plays music. People stamp feet against the floor, not dancing as at a summer feast, simply keeping rhythm. The animals become restless at the noise. Children fall asleep against adults. The fire burns bright. For one night, no one counts the wood aloud. Outside, the village is buried in snow. Inside, the household spends warmth. The choice is deliberate. A community cannot survive by saving everything. Food must sometimes be shared. Ale must sometimes be poured. Stories must sometimes be told too loudly. Otherwise, survival becomes only another form of hunger. The gathering ends slowly. No one leaves until necessary. Some guests sleep where they sit. Others cross the short paths between houses carrying lamps. The snow reflects the light. For a few minutes, the village appears filled with moving stars. Then doors close. Darkness returns. You lie beneath your blanket. The longhouse is warmer than usual. Smoke hangs thick near the roof. The embers glow steadily. Your body feels heavy. Voices fade. Someone near the wall is still whispering. A child murmurs in sleep. Outside, the wind is gentle. You begin to understand the longest winter differently. It is not one continuous suffering. It is made of many smaller worlds. A storm, a meal, a repair, a song, a fear that passes, a fear that remains, a ship lost, a ship returned. The weeks continue. The light grows almost imperceptibly. Then one morning, it becomes impossible not to notice. Sunlight reaches the northern wall of the longhouse. A child sees it first. He points. Everyone turns. The patch of light is small, no wider than a hand. Still, it has not appeared there for many weeks. Astrid touches the wall where it falls. The surface remains cold. The light offers no warmth. Yet, the room changes. People smile without discussion. The old man says the son has remembered the road. No one argues. That night, the story is repeated in another house. By morning, the whole village has heard it. A few days later, water drips from the edge of a roof. Only once. Then again, by afternoon, it freezes, but the sound has been heard. A small, clear tap. Winter has made its first mistake. The people notice. Birds appear near the shore. They circle above open water beyond the ice. Their cries carry far across the calm air. The old man calls them scouts sent by summer. A child asks whether summer has an army. The old man says every blade of grass is a spear. No one believes him. Everyone enjoys the idea. The village does not celebrate spring yet. That would be foolish. Winter often returns after offering a false kindness. A warm afternoon can become a killing frost. Still, preparations begin, not visibly, not all at once. But minds turn towards fields, boats, lambing, and travel. Seeds are checked. Tools are examined. The repaired ship receives a new section of mast. Fresh rope is made. Torsten walks with a limp now. He says it will improve. Astrid says he will remain close enough for her to discover whether that is true. He does not argue strongly. The 2 sailors who died are remembered at a smaller gathering. Food and drink are shared. Words are spoken. There is sorrow. There is also ordinary interruption. A child becomes restless. The dog steals something from a bowl. Life refuses to become ceremonial for long. That refusal is part of healing. The dead are honored. The living continue. Both truths remain in the same room. You stand outside after the gathering. Night covers the village. The air is cold but no longer violent. Smoke rises from every occupied house. Sigrid's roof is whole again. Her fire burns. The 3 dead hearths from the storm have returned, not all in the same way. One family still sleeps with relatives. Another house is being rebuilt. Winter leaves marks, a repaired roof, a smaller herd, an empty sleeping place, a changed walk, a story told differently than before. Survival does not mean returning unchanged. It means carrying change into the next season. It means knowing what was lost and still preparing the soil. The village understands this. You walk towards the shore. The ice is dark and uneven. Cracks run through it near the rocks. The sea moves beneath. You can hear it, a low shifting sound under the frozen surface. The water was never gone, only hidden, only waiting. Behind you, the longhouse door opens. Warm light reaches across the snow. Someone calls you back inside. You turn. The village appears small beneath the night. Small, but not fragile in the way you first imagine. Its strength does not come from walls alone. It comes from knowledge, labor, memory, and the habit of gathering when one fire fails. Inside, the evening meal waits. The same bowls, the same hearth, the same smoke-dark roof. Yet the room feels different now, because you know the people within it. You take your place. The dog settles near your feet. A cup is passed into your hands. Tonight, the broth is thick. There is fish, a little butter. Outside, ice shifts in the harbor. Inside, the old man begins another story. No one asks whether it is true. The firelight moves across familiar faces. Torsten listens beside Astrid. Leif checks the woodpile. Children lean against sleeping parents. The animals breathe behind the partition. The night gathers around the house. You have traveled nowhere today. You have crossed no battlefield. You have witnessed no king crowned. But you have lived through something history often forgets to describe. An ordinary winter night. The kind most people in the past actually knew. A night of food measured carefully, tools repaired, children carried to bed. A night of waiting for weather, listening for ships, keeping one flame alive until morning. This is where history truly lives. Not only in battles, monuments, and names carved into stone. It lives in smoke beneath a roof, in wet wool drying near a hearth, in a mother recognizing her son's voice across winter water, in neighbors arriving with tools before being asked, in a bowl of berries opened at the right moment, in a joke about geese told after grief. The longest winter continues beyond this night. There will be more cold, more work, more counting. But you no longer fear its darkness in the same way. You know where the wood is stored. You know who tends the fire. You know the door is barred. The storm can remain outside. The sea can move beneath the ice. The stars can turn slowly above the ridge. You do not need to watch them. You do not need to wait for another sail. The ship has returned. The house is warm. The people around you are safe for tonight. And tonight is enough. So let your breathing become slower. Let the voices beside the fire fade into a soft murmur. Let the wind become distant. Feel the weight of the woolen blanket. The steady warmth of the hearth, the quiet presence of the longhouse around you. There is nowhere else you need to be. Nothing has been left unfinished for you. No watch has been assigned. The fire will be tended. The animals will be fed. The roof will hold. Beyond the wall, snow covers the paths. Beyond the shore, the dark sea waits for spring. Beyond the village, the world remains wide and uncertain. But here, the night has narrowed to warmth, breath, and firelight. Here, the longest winter cannot reach you all at once. It can only move past the walls 1 hour at a time, and while it moves, you may rest, you may listen, you may sleep. The old man's voice becomes quieter. His story loses its edges. Words become rhythm. The fire settles into red embers. A final spark rises towards the roof, then disappears. Someone draws another blanket over a sleeping child. Someone turns beside the wall. The dog sighs. The village remains beneath the snow. The harbor remains beneath the stars. The repaired ship waits beside the ice. Morning will come when it is ready. Spring will come when it is ready. You do not need to hurry either one. For now, let the ancient winter hold the world still. Let the longhouse carry your weight. Let history become quiet around you. Tonight, you have lived in a Viking village during the longest winter. And now, while the fire continues to burn, you may drift slowly, peacefully, and completely into sleep. The next morning begins with sound rather than light. A steady dripping comes from the edge of the roof. Not fast, not warm enough to be called thaw, but persistent. Each drop falls onto a flat stone near the doorway. Tap, pause, tap. People notice without commenting. The sound is too small for celebration. Still, every person who passes the door glances towards it. Winter is beginning to lose its certainty. The sky remains grey. Snow still covers the fields. The harbor ice still holds near the shore. Yet the cold no longer feels endless in quite the same way. You step outside with Leaf to carry tools towards the repaired ship. The snow is harder beneath your boots. Its surface bears your weight for a few steps, then suddenly gives way. You sink to the knee and hear Leif laugh behind you. He offers a hand. You rise. No one in the village crosses late winter snow without expecting betrayal. A surface may look solid and still hide softness beneath. The ship stands on wooden supports near the beach. Its damaged planks have been removed. Fresh timber, pale against the darker hull, curves along one side. The carpenter is already at work. He shapes a board with an adze. Each stroke is controlled. Thin curls of wood fall to the snow. The board must bend without splitting. To make it flexible, the timber is warmed. Water is poured. The grain is studied. Then the plank is slowly forced into the line of the hull. Nothing about the process is hurried. The ship survived because its builders understood movement. The repair must respect the same knowledge. A rigid mistake can fail where flexible craftsmanship survives. Leif carries iron rivets from a cloth bag. They are not identical. Each has been made by hand. Each one will be driven through wood and clenched from the other side. The sound of hammering travels across the shore. Sharp, measured, repeated. Across the village, other work answers it. An axe from the woodpile, a spindle haul tapping a bench, a shovel striking frozen earth. Winter has its own music, not a song exactly, more a pattern of survival, labor moving from house to house. By midday, the clouds lift. For the first time in many days, the distant hills become visible. Their slopes remain white. The ridge above the harbor stands dark against the sky. A watcher climbs out of habit. No one expects a ship now. The sea route is still dangerous, but the ridge has become part of the village's daily rhythm. From below, you see the watcher pause at the top. He turns, then raises one arm. Not a warning, a gesture towards the south. People follow the direction of his hand. At first, you see nothing. Then a line of birds appears. Geese, flying low over the coast. Their formation bends with the wind. The children shout. The old man emerges from the longhouse without his cloak. Astrid tells him to go back inside. He ignores her. The geese pass above the village. Their calls descend through the cold air. For a few moments, everyone watches. Then they are gone. The old man says summer has sent its first messengers. Astrid says they are only geese. The old man says that is how summer travels when it does not wish to be recognized. The children believe him immediately. That evening, the story of the geese is already changing. By the time it reaches the farthest house, there are twice as many birds. By the following morning, one child claims they circled the village 3 times. History begins quickly. Not all change is welcome. The warmer air loosens snow from roofs. Heavy sheets slide without warning. Paths become dangerous in new ways. A boy narrowly avoids a fall of packed snow beside a storage shed. After that, adults inspect every roof edge. Children are told where not to stand. The village adjusts. Late winter is not gentler. It is simply dangerous differently. Ice weakens. Snow conceals water. Warm afternoons become freezing nights. A path safe in the morning may be treacherous by dusk. Experience changes with the season. Survival is a moving target. Torsten begins walking farther each day. His limp remains. He hides it poorly. Astrid sees everything. She gives him tasks close to the longhouse. He complains that he is not a child. She tells him children complain less. Torsten chooses silence. He helps Leif twist new rope. The fibers come from plant material and animal hair. The strands are pulled tight, combined, tested, and coiled. Good rope can carry lives. It secures sail, ties cargo, holds boats, lifts timber. A weak section may fail once. That is enough. So Torsten tests every length with both hands. His injured fingers move slowly. You sit nearby and help separate fibers. The work is calm. The conversation comes and goes. Long pauses feel natural. Torsten eventually speaks of the storm again. This time, not the danger. The waiting. Days spent behind the island with no decision that felt safe. He says that action is easier than uncertainty. Even a difficult task gives the mind somewhere to go. Waiting leaves the mind alone with every possible ending. Leif asks whether Torsten believed the ship would return. Torsten considers the question. He says belief changed every hour, sometimes every breath. At dawn, hope. At night, certainty of death. Then hunger. Then anger. Then the sight of one familiar star between clouds. That single star was enough to change the whole crew, not because it guaranteed safety, because it gave them direction. The village listens differently now when Torsten speaks. Before, he was one of the men at sea. Now he is someone who returned. Experience has altered his place without giving him a title. That evening, Erik asks Torsten to sit near him during a discussion about spring travel. The gesture is small. Everyone notices. Responsibility begins before authority becomes visible. The household considers which boats can sail first, which goods can be traded, which alliances require attention, which families need help before anything leaves the village. Spring is not freedom. It brings work faster than winter can leave. Fields must be prepared. Animals will give birth. Roofs must be opened and dried. Boats must be launched. Nets repaired. Journeys planned. The quiet discipline of winter becomes the urgency of light. For now, however, the village remains between seasons. The snow is still deep. The nights are still cold. The longhouse still gathers everyone after dark. One evening, Astrid opens a chest of clothing. Summer garments are lifted out. Lighter wool, linen, belts stored with care. The children touch them as though they belong to another world. One small tunic no longer fits its owner. A younger child receives it. Clothing moves through families like memory. A patch from one sleeve becomes part of another garment. A worn cloak becomes bedding. A piece of linen too small for clothing becomes a bandage. Nothing disappears without first becoming something else. The same is true of stories. A tale changes hand. A warning becomes a joke. A memory becomes custom. The missing ship will be remembered differently in 10 years. Some details will sharpen. Others will vanish. Perhaps the storm will become worse than it was. Perhaps Torsten will become braver. Perhaps the whale will grow larger. The truth will remain inside the shape of the telling. One night, the old man brings out a comb carved from bone. He tells you it belonged to his mother. The teeth are worn. One is broken. He remembers her sitting near a doorway in spring. He remembers light in her hair. He does not remember her voice. This troubles him. The room becomes still. No one offers false comfort. Memory preserves unevenly. It saves the touch of one hand and loses the sound of another. Astrid asks what his mother used to sing. The old man says he does not know. Then, after a long silence, he hums 3 notes. The melody stops. The young woman with the bowed instrument repeats the notes. Then again, she adds a 4th. The old man closes his eyes. He says that might be it. The room listens. The melody grows slowly. No one knows whether it is truly his mother's song. That does not matter. For one evening, the missing voice has somewhere to rest. You hear the tune again in later days. A child hums it while carrying wood. A woman sings it while spinning. The old man never corrects them. This is how a private memory becomes part of a village. Not through command, through repetition, through affection. The weather shifts again. A hard freeze returns for 3 nights. The dripping stops. The roof edges sharpen with ice. No one is surprised. The old man says winter heard the song and came back to listen. Astrid says winter should have stayed away. The children begin singing louder. During the cold spell, the harbor ice thickens once more. Men cross only the safest sections. Poles test the surface before every step. Cracks are watched closely. You join a small group checking fish traps beneath the ice. A hole is reopened with an axe. Dark water appears. Cold rises from it like breath. A line is pulled slowly. At first, nothing, then movement. A fish flashes beneath the surface. It is lifted into the air. Silver, alive. The village receives it with more gratitude than its size deserves. The catch is divided. Part goes into the evening stew. Part is preserved. The bones will flavor broth. Even one fish enters many meals. The children examine its scales before they are removed. The old man claims each one contains a map of the sea. A child asks him to show the harbor. He studies the fish carefully, then points to a random scale. The child is satisfied. The freeze breaks after 3 days. The dripping returns. This time, water runs in narrow lines beside the houses. Snow collapses from the fields in heavy sections. The paths become mud beneath slush. Boots sink. Children discover puddles deep enough to cause trouble. The village spends more time drying clothing than celebrating warmth. Inside the longhouse, smoke changes. The roof openings are widened slightly. Fresh air enters. The room feels larger. For months, the building has held people, animals, heat, damp, and breath. Now, it begins to release winter. Blankets are carried outside when weather allows. Furs are beaten. Boards are scrubbed. Old straw is removed. The longhouse is cleaned, not because it is dirty by local standards, but because spring allows what winter forbade. Air, space, dryness, movement. The animals become restless. They smell change before people trust it. A goat pulls repeatedly at its tether. The cattle turn towards every open door. One afternoon, they are led outside for a short time. Their steps are cautious. Then one young animal kicks into the air. The children cheer. The old man says, even cattle remember joy. No one argues. The animals return indoors before night. Winter is loosening, not gone. The repaired ship receives fresh pitch along its seams. The mixture is warmed and worked into gaps. The smell is sharp. The hull darkens. A new section of sail is attached. The cloth has been woven through winter. Hours of spinning and weaving become wind-catching surface. Everyone who worked on it can recognize some small part. A line, a seam, a repaired edge. The ship belongs to more hands than those who will sail it. This is true of nearly everything in the village. A boat may carry 10 men. It may represent the labor of 50. A loaf may feed one family. It may contain the work of an entire season. The modern eye sees an object. The village sees a chain of effort. Torsten walks around the repaired hull. He touches the new plank. The carpenter watches him. Neither speaks. Then Torsten nods. The carpenter nods back. The ship has been forgiven for surviving badly. Soon it will be asked to try again. That thought unsettles Astrid. She does not oppose the repair. She does not ask Torsten to stay forever. She knows the sea is part of the village's life. Still, each hammer strike carries the shape of another departure. Love does not become less fearful through experience. It becomes more informed. One night, Astrid asks whether you would sail. The question comes while she is folding cloth. You say you do not know. She says that is the answer of someone who has not yet seen the water in spring. She explains that when the ice breaks, the sea changes character. It shines. It opens roads. It smells of distance. People who feared it all winter begin looking towards it. Boats become possible again. Possibility is dangerous. It is also irresistible. The old man overhears and says the sea has two faces. Astrid says it has more than two. Torsten says it has as many faces as people who look at it. Life says that is the wisest thing Torsten has ever said. Torsten throws a piece of wool at him. The dog catches it. The room dissolves into laughter. The longest winter has not ended, but laughter now arrives more easily. The house no longer listens to every gust. One evening, the first true rain falls. Not snow, not sleet, rain. It strikes the roof in a steady whisper. The sound wakes several people. For a moment, no one understands it. Then someone opens the door. Cold, wet air enters. The snow beyond the threshold darkens. Water runs from the eaves. The rain continues through the night. It eats at the drifts. It turns white roofs gray. It fills the paths. Inside, people listen. Rain can bring flooding, mud, rot. Still, no one wishes it away. It sounds like movement. It sounds like the world changing form. By morning, patches of dark earth appear near the wall. Children crouch beside them. The ground is hard. Nothing grows yet. The sight of soil is enough. A child touches it with 2 fingers, then smells them. The adults smile. The old man declares the earth has returned from its journey. Astrid says the earth never left. He says that is exactly what the earth wants her to think. The first visible grass appears days later. One narrow blade beside a stone wall, small enough to miss, bright enough to seem impossible. A girl finds it. She calls everyone. For several breaths, a group of adults stands around one blade of grass. No one laughs. It is not merely a plant. It is proof the season can change. The village has crossed the deepest dark. That evening, the blade of grass becomes a story. The old man claims it pushed through snow with the strength of a spear. The children insist it should be protected. A small ring of stones is placed around it. Astrid says the stones will block sunlight. The children remove them, then stand guard instead. The grass survives their attention. The days lengthen quickly now. The harbor ice breaks along the outer edge. Dark water enters in wide lines. The sound is deep, cracking, grinding, shifting. People gather at the shore. No one stands too close. Large plates of ice move against one another. The sea reclaims its shape. A section breaks free. It turns slowly, then drifts outwards. Children wave to it. The old man says winter is leaving by boat. The ice carries no sail. Still, everyone watches until it disappears. Work accelerates. Nets are carried outside. Fields are inspected. Tools are sharpened. The repaired ship is moved closer to the water. Rollers are placed beneath the hull. Ropes are attached. Men and women gather. The first attempt moves the ship only a little. The second moves it farther. People adjust their footing. Commands remain calm. On the third pull, the hull slides. Wood rolls beneath it. The ship reaches the wet edge of the shore. Water touches the new planks. For a moment, it rests between land and sea. Then another pull carries it forward. The ship floats. The village cheers, not loudly at first, then with full voices. Torsten stands beside Astrid. He looks towards the open water. She looks at him. Neither says what both understand. The ship will sail again. Not today. Not tomorrow, but soon. That evening, the longhouse feels almost too warm. The animals will soon spend more time outdoors. Some families return fully to their own houses. The great winter gathering begins to loosen. People who slept an arm's length apart for months now carry blankets away. Chests move. Sleeping platforms empty. The room gains space and loses voices. This separation is welcome. It is also strange. Community formed by necessity must learn to become distance again. Sigrid returns to her house with both children. Her hearth burns steadily. The repaired roof holds. She hangs the iron hook above the fire. Before leaving, she touches Astrid's shoulder. No long thanks. No speech. The winter itself has already said enough. The village enters a new rhythm. Doors remain open longer. Smoke leaves more easily. Children disappear between houses and return muddy. The old man complains about noise, then sits outside where he can hear it better. Torsten begins working at the shore each day. Leif joins him. The two argue about rope, sail, and weather. Their disagreements no longer sound like fear. They sound like plans. One night, you sit with Astrid outside the longhouse. The sky is clear. Snow remains on distant hills. The ground near the village is dark. She asks what you will remember. The question is larger than it appears. You look towards the harbor. You might remember the storm, the missing ship, the moment Torsten's voice returned across the ice. But other things come first. The smell of wet wool, the sound of grain being measured, a child falling asleep beside the hearth. The old man's 3 notes. Astrid nods. She says large events are easy to remember badly. Small things are harder to invent. Perhaps that is why they matter. The village sleeps beneath a sky no longer owned by winter. The sea moves freely in the harbor. The repaired ship rises and falls with the tide. You listen to water against the hull. No ice, no wind, only movement. Inside, the fire burns low. The door is no longer barred against a storm. It rests closed. The room still holds warmth. Your sleeping place remains near the wall. The same fur, the same woolen blanket, but the air smells different. Less smoke, more damp earth. A hint of salt from the open water. You lie down. The longhouse settles. Some platforms are empty now. The silence feels wider. There is no danger in it, no missing ship, no uncertain horizon. Only the quiet after endurance. The longest winter is nearly over, not because one day announced it, because 100 small changes gathered, a drip, a bird, a patch of earth, a blade of grass, a ship floating again. This is how seasons turn. This is how fear loosens. This is how survival becomes memory. You close your eye. The fire needs no special guarding tonight. The roof carries no heavy snow. The harbor is open. The people around you breathe slowly. The animals shift in the distance. Rainwater moves beneath the eaves. There is nothing you need to watch, nothing you need to repair, nothing you need to count. The village has carried you this far. The longhouse remains around you. The sea remains beyond the shore. Morning will bring work. Spring will bring departures. Summer will bring journeys, harvests, trade, births, feasts, and losses of its own. But none of that belongs to this moment. This moment belongs to rest, to warmth, to the quiet space between one season and the next. Let the water against the hull become rhythm. Let the last winter wind move far above the roof. Let the dark soften. You have crossed the longest nights. You have waited beside the fire. You have heard the missing return. Now the village no longer needs your attention. The watch belongs to someone else. The door is secure. The hearth is alive. The sea is open. You may sleep. The first morning without frost arrives quietly. No one announces it. No horn sounds from the ridge. No feast is prepared. A wooden bucket left beside the longhouse remains wet instead of freezing solid. A thin pool near the doorway reflects the sky. When Astrid steps outside, she presses one boot into the ground and feels the earth give beneath her. She looks towards the harbor. The water is moving freely between the shore and the repaired ship. Small pieces of ice still drift near the rocks. They knock gently against one another. The sound is softer now. Winter has not vanished. It has become scattered. A white line on a roof. A frozen hollow in the shade. A crust of snow beneath the northern wall. A patch of ice where the sun has not reached. The season remains in fragments. The village begins opening itself. Shutters are lifted. Doors stand open longer. Smoke escapes through widened roof vents. Blankets are carried outside. Furs are hung over rails. Wooden chests are emptied and checked. Everything that winter kept closed must now be aired. The longhouse changes hour by hour. Light reaches places you had never seen clearly. Dust moves through sunbeams. Carvings emerge from smoke-dark wood. A crack in one post is discovered. A broken peg is replaced. An old spoon appears beneath a sleeping platform. The dog claims it immediately. Children search the corners, as though the house has become a new landscape. They find beads, nutshells, a bone gaming piece, and one small knife that vanished before the first snow. The knife belongs to Leif. No one lets him forget where it was found. The animals spend more time outside. At first, they move cautiously. The ground is unfamiliar after months of straw and shadow. Then the younger ones begin to run. A goat leaps onto a low stone. A calf kicks sideways. The chickens scatter beneath the longhouse wall and begin scratching at earth that has only just reappeared. Their noise fills the yard. The village sounds less enclosed. Voices carry farther. Axes echo from the woods. Water moves everywhere. It runs beneath old snow. It drips from thatch. It gathers in tracks. It finds every low place. People dig channels to guide it away from walls. Late winter protected the houses with frozen ground. Spring threatens them with mud. The village adjusts again. You work beside Sigrid's house, cutting a shallow trench with a wooden spade reinforced by iron. The earth is heavy. Water fills the cut almost immediately. Sigrid directs it towards the slope. She knows where flooding came in earlier years. She remembers which wall weakened. Seasonal knowledge lives in the shape of small decisions. A trench placed one step to the left may save a floor. The children attempt their own channel. It leads water directly towards a storage shed. Sigrid stops them before their engineering becomes memorable. They are reassigned to carrying stones. Astrid begins a full count of the winter stores. Sacks are opened. Barrels are checked. Dried fish are lifted from the rafters. What remains must carry the village until new food becomes available. Spring looks generous. It is often a hungry season. The fields are not ready. Animals have not yet produced much milk. Fishing improves only when weather allows. The last stores must bridge the gap. This is why winter planning extends beyond winter. A household that consumes everything before the thaw may survive the snow and fail beneath a warm sun. Astrid counts carefully. Grain remains. Not much. Enough, if portions stay measured. Dried fish remains in greater quantity. Several pieces show damp. They are separated immediately. The usable parts will be cooked soon. A jar of butter has gone sour. Nothing can restore it. The loss is accepted without drama. There is no value in pretending spoiled food is safe. Astrid records quantities without writing. She uses memory, arrangement, and marked pieces of wood, a notch for one kind of store, a carved line for another. The system is simple to anyone who knows it. To you, it looks like a small collection of sticks. To Astrid, it is the difference between confidence and guesswork. A household does not need paper to keep accounts. It needs a method that survives use. Eric joins her. They speak quietly. The repaired ship may sail south once weather improves. It can return with grain, salt, iron, and news. But sailing early carries risk. Floating ice remains beyond the inlet. Storms can rise quickly. The sea is open, not safe. Torsten listens from nearby. He says the ship can be ready within days. Astrid does not look at him. Eirik asks about the mast. Torsten answers. The new section holds. The sail has been checked. The steering oar is sound. Eirik asks about the crew. Torsten hesitates. That question is harder. 2 men are dead. One survivor remains too weak to sail. Another has sworn he will never leave land again. The crew that returned cannot simply become the crew that departs. New hands must be chosen. Leif wants to go. Everyone knows it. Before he speaks, he has been looking at the ship since the harbor opened. He asks Eric directly. Eirik does not answer at once. He tells Leif to finish the rope he is making. Leif begins to protest. Astrid glances at him. The protest ends. In the following days, spring work overtakes nearly everything. Fences are repaired. Tools are carried to the fields. Seed grain is brought from the driest chest. The fields look lifeless. Brown earth, flattened grass, water shining in furrows. Yet people move across them with purpose. They inspect drainage. They test the soil. They lift stones pushed upward by frost. Each stone is carried aside. Some strengthen walls, some line paths, some become part of new hearths. The land offers obstacles and material at the same time. The difference depends on where the stone is placed. You begin to see the village this way. Nothing is simply present. Wood is roof, ship, bowl, fuel, fence, or tool. Wool is clothing, sail, bedding, rope, or trade. Time itself is divided by use. Morning belongs to animals. Daylight belongs to fields. Evening belongs to repair. Night belongs to sleep, story, and fire. The rhythm becomes faster now. Winter allowed long hours indoors. Spring pushes everyone outward. The light remains too valuable to waste. Children work beside adults. They collect stones, carry small bundles, watch younger animals. Their labor is real. So is their play. The two overlap constantly. A boy sent to gather sticks returns with half as many as expected and a pocket full of snail shells. A girl guarding chickens gives each bird a name. One is called Eric. No one explains this to him. The old man spends more time outside. He sits near the longhouse wall where the sun reaches longest. His cloak remains wrapped tightly around him. He claims the warmth is sufficient. Astrid tells him his hands are blue. He says they are reflecting the sky. She brings him another blanket. He accepts it without surrendering the argument. From his place beside the wall, he watches the entire settlement. Children approach him for stories. Adults approach him for memory. Where did the old path run before the flood years ago? Which field held water longest? Where was the birch stand before the great storm? He does not always know. Sometimes he invents. People have learned to distinguish his pauses. A short pause means memory. A long pause means a story is being built. The old man insists this is unfair. No one believes him. One afternoon, he walks with you towards the edge of the fields. His pace is slow. The ground is uneven. He carries a stick polished by years of use. He points towards a low mound. Long before the current longhouse stood, another building occupied that place. Its posts rotted. Its roof fell. People used some of its timber elsewhere. Grass covered the rest. Now only a faint rise remains. The village is older than the houses. Homes appear permanent during one life. Across generations, they move, sink, burn, and return to earth. The old man says he remembers playing near the earlier house as a child. He remembers a doorway leaning sideways. He remembers being warned not to enter. Naturally, he entered. Inside, he found a bird's nest in the old hearth. He took this as proof that even abandoned fires become homes for something. You ask whether the story is true. He leans on his stick. A long pause follows. Then he asks whether truth would improve it. You both continue walking. Near the field edge, new shoots appear. Not crops, wild plants. Small green leaves pushing through wet earth. Some will be eaten, some used as medicine, some ignored. Knowledge determines which is which. Astrid and another woman gather the first useful greens. They choose carefully. Young leaves may add freshness after months of dried food. A mistake may cause illness. The plants are washed and chopped into the evening broth. Their flavor is faintly bitter. The entire longhouse notices. Freshness has become unfamiliar. The children make faces. The adults continue eating. The old man says, "Bitterness wakes the blood." A child asks whether the blood was sleeping. The old man says, "Everyone's blood sleeps during winter." Astrid says, "Only his." The argument continues until the bowls are empty. As the ground dries, sheep are moved farther from the village. Their wool is thick from winter. Lambing season brings both hope and anxiety. A healthy lamb strengthens the household. A difficult birth may threaten the ewe. People check the animals often. The nights remain cold enough that newborns may need shelter. The line between life and loss is narrow. One evening, a boy runs to the longhouse, shouting that a ewe has begun labor. Astrid and 2 others leave immediately. You follow at a distance. The animal stands in a small enclosure. Its breathing is quick. The people around it move calmly. They have done this before. Time passes. The sky darkens. A lamp is brought. The ewe lowers itself. The birth is difficult. One woman reaches carefully. Another steadies the animal. No one speaks more than necessary. At last, the lamb appears, wet. Still, for one frightening moment, nothing happens. Then the woman clears its mouth, rubs its body. The lamb moves. A small sound enters the night. The ewe turns. The people step back. The village has gained one fragile life. The lamb is carried indoors briefly to warm. Children crowd near it. They are told to move back. They move back almost half a step. Its legs seem too long. Its ears too large. Its body trembles beneath cloth. The old man declares it a warrior. Astrid says it cannot stand. He says every warrior begins somewhere. By morning, the lamb is beside its mother. It stands badly, falls, rises again. The children watch every attempt. No story in the longhouse holds them as completely. Life does not need decoration when it is new. The lamb becomes a measure of spring. Each day, it moves more confidently. Soon, it runs. The children run with it. The village enters a season of beginnings. Not all are successful. Some seeds fail. One young animal does not survive. A section of fence collapses during rain. A boat leaks when first tested. Spring brings possibility, not perfection. The leaking boat is dragged back onto shore. Its seams are dried. Pitch is reheated. No one calls the launch a failure. It revealed what needed repair. A small leak found near land is useful knowledge. The same leak found far from shore is danger. Leif works on the boat with unusual care. He knows Eirik is watching. He also knows the decision about the trading voyage has not been made. Each repair becomes part of his argument. Torsten says little. He tests Leif instead. Knots, weather sign, sail handling. What does a low cloud over the western ridge suggest? How does a steering oar feel when current changes? Which rope should be cut first if the sail tears in a sudden gust? Leif answers some correctly, others poorly. Torsten does not soften the mistakes. The sea will not care about Leif's pride. Training that protects pride may fail to protect life. Leif learns to accept correction. At night, he repeats knots beside the hearth. His fingers move even while he listens to stories. The dog steals one rope end. Leif retrieves it without anger. Patience is becoming visible in him. The old man notices. He says nothing. That silence feels like approval. One clear morning, Eric gathers the possible crew beside the repaired ship. Torsten will lead. 3 experienced sailors join him. 2 younger men will take the remaining places. Leif stands among them. Eirik looks at him for a long moment, then tells him to bring his gear. Leif does not smile until he turns away. He walks quickly, not running, almost. Astrid watches from the longhouse door. She has gained one son back from the sea. Now, the village prepares to send others out. This is the rhythm of coastal life. Return, repair, departure. No harbor remains full forever. The voyage will be short if weather holds. South along the coast, trade at a familiar settlement. Return before fieldwork becomes urgent. Plans are practical. The sea remains indifferent to plans. Everyone knows both truths. Preparations begin immediately. Food is measured. Water vessels are checked. Tools are wrapped. Spare rope is coiled. The sail is examined once more. Each crew member prepares clothing for wet and cold conditions. Even in spring, exposure can kill. Wool remains essential. A cloak that grows wet becomes heavy. Dry layers are protected inside skins. The women check seams and ties. A poorly fastened garment may seem trivial on land. At sea, everything loose becomes a problem. Nothing is beneath attention. Astrid prepares Torsten's bundle. He tells her he can do it himself. She agrees, then continues. Their argument is old enough to be affectionate. Torsten stops resisting. He watches her fold the wool. She includes a small piece of cloth tied with thread. He does not ask what it is. Perhaps a charm, perhaps a reminder, perhaps both. Leif's mother gives him a new pair of mittens. He says the weather is too warm. She tells him the sea has not heard. He packs them. The old man gives Leif no object, only advice. When frightened, do the next useful thing, not the greatest thing, the next one. Leif repeats the words. The old man tells him not to repeat them, only remember. Leif nods. The lesson settles. The night before departure, the longhouse fills again. Not for a feast, for company. No one wishes to sleep early. The sailors sit near the fire. Stories move around them. Some are warnings disguised as jokes. Others are memories of earlier journeys. A man describes losing his boot in deep mud at a southern market. Another claims he traded a broken comb for a silver piece. Astrid asks whether the buyer was blind. The old man says all good trade requires one blind person. Eirik tells him that explains many of his possessions. The room laughs. Beneath the humor lies tension. Everyone hears tomorrow inside the conversation. Every pause carries the sea. Torsten remains calm. Perhaps he is calm. Perhaps he has learned how to appear so. Astrid watches him without staring. Leif eats little. His mother notices. She places bread in his hand. He finishes it because she remains beside him. Later, music begins. The 3-note melody once remembered by the old man has grown. It now has several lines. No one knows who added them. The song is played softly. The sailors listen. The old man closes his eyes. The tune no longer belongs only to memory. It has become a traveling thing. Tomorrow it will leave the village. Perhaps Leif will hum it at sea. Perhaps someone in a southern harbor will hear part of it. Songs travel differently from ships. They need no cargo space, no written mark, only one person willing to remember. When the lamps are lowered, sleep comes unevenly. The sailors lie close to their gear. Mothers wake often. Astrid tends the fire, though it is not her watch. You remain awake for a while. The longhouse feels like it did on the night of the storm. Quiet, listening, but this time, danger has not arrived. It is being chosen. That makes the feeling different. Not easier. People leave because survival also requires movement. Trade brings iron, salt, cloth, grain, and alliances. The village cannot close itself forever. Shelter preserves life. Connection sustains it. The repaired ship waits between those truths. Before dawn, the household rises. Broth is warmed. Bread is divided. The sailors eat in silence. Outside, mist lies over the harbor. The water is calm. The sail hangs furled. Every sound seems unusually clear. Footsteps on wet earth. Rope moving across wood. A bird calling from the shore. The creak of the hull. The ship is loaded. Cargo for trade is modest. Hides, carved objects, rope, a little preserved food beyond what the crew will consume. The village sends what it can spare. People gather near the water. There are no long speeches. Those who live with departure know words cannot control it. Farewells are brief. Hands touch shoulders. A child is lifted for one final embrace. Astrid places her palm against Torsten's chest, then lets him go. Leif steps aboard. His mother gives him no last instruction. She has already given enough. The new mittens are inside his bundle. Eirik enters last. He will travel part of the route, both as trader and leader. The steering oar is set. Ropes are released. The ship drifts away from shore. At first, the sail remains down. The crew uses oars to clear the harbor. Water opens behind them. The village walks along the shore. Children wave. Adults stand still. The old man lifts his stick. Beyond the harbor, wind reaches the ship. The sail rises. Cloth fills slowly. The vessel turns south. The repaired plank disappears into the dark line of the hull. The figures aboard become smaller. Leif raises one arm. Then distance takes detail. The ship becomes shape, then sail, then a pale mark. At last, the horizon holds nothing. The village remains at the shore. No one moves immediately. Departure needs a moment of silence. Astrid turns first. There is work waiting. There is always work waiting. The others follow. The longhouse feels emptier that evening, not because many people left, because attention left with them. Every person in the room imagines the same coast. No storm is expected. The voyage is familiar. Still, memory has made confidence cautious. Astrid counts the days without saying she is counting. The old man notices. He begins telling a story before she can ask for one. This story concerns a woman who tied the wind inside a sack. Her husband opened it too early. The wind escaped and blew him back home. Astrid says the story is foolish. The old man says foolish stories return sailors faster. She allows him to continue. The village resumes spring work. Fields are turned. Seeds are sown. The earth receives grain. Hands scatter carefully. Birds watch from fences. Children are sent to frighten them away. The children frighten one another more effectively than the birds. Still, some seed remains. The field is covered lightly. Planting is an act of trust. The grain disappears into earth. Nothing visible guarantees return. The village gives food to the ground and waits. This resembles every voyage. Something valuable leaves sight. Hope continues without proof. People work while waiting. Days become brighter. The lamb grows stronger. The roof dries completely. The longhouse doors remain open until evening. Smoke no longer gathers so heavily. The building breathes. At night, sleep comes more easily. The season no longer presses against every wall. The fire is smaller. Blankets become lighter. You begin waking to birds instead of wind. The change feels almost impossible. The same village that once vanished beneath snow now shines with water and mud. One morning, a child runs from the ridge, not with fear, with news. A sail has appeared in the south. People move towards the shore. Astrid walks quickly but does not run. The old man forgets his stick and has to return for it. The sail grows. The hull becomes visible. No signal of distress appears. The ship enters the harbor under clear light. Its repaired side holds. The crew stands along the rail. Leif is among them. His face is sunburned. He wears the new mittens tucked into his belt. His mother notices before anyone else. The ship touches shore. Ropes are thrown. This return is not like the winter return. No broken mast. No fever. No missing men. The cargo is larger. Sacks of grain, salt, iron, a roll of cloth, small objects purchased or exchanged. News carried in memory. Leif steps onto land. His mother touches his face. Then she strikes his shoulder lightly for making her wait. He smiles. Torsten embraces Astrid. She asks whether the voyage was calm. He says mostly. She says that word means he is hiding something. He promises to tell her later. Eric reports successful trade. The village receives what it needs. That evening, the longhouse fills with voices. Leif tells the story of the journey badly. He begins with details no one needs. He forgets the order. The old man interrupts constantly. Torsten corrects him. The dog steals food beneath the bench. No one mine. The ship has returned before anyone learned to fear its absence. A successful voyage is allowed to remain ordinary. The new grain is stored. The salt is divided. The iron is inspected. The cloth is unfolded. Its color is deep blue. The children stare. Winter's pallet has been broken completely. Astrid touches the cloth. She imagines where it might be used. A border, a garment, a gift, a trade of its own. Objects arrive, carrying futures not yet decided. Leif places a small bead in his mother's hand. Green glass, uneven, bright. He traded for it himself. She turns it in the firelight, then ties it onto a thread around her neck. Leif pretends not to be proud. He fails. The old man notices and says nothing. Later, when the room quiets, The old man asks Leif whether he was frightened. Leif says yes. The answer comes easily. He says the fear arrived when land disappeared. For a while, there was only water. No tree, no hill. The old man asks what he did. Leif looks towards the rope near the wall. He says he tightened the next useful knot. The old man nods. Nothing more is needed. The lesson has traveled and returned. The village enters true spring. The fields darken with rain. Green spreads along the slopes. The last snow survives only on distant hills. Boats come and go from the harbor. Nets are cast. Fish hang once more near the shore. The longhouse no longer contains the whole village each night. People return to their own homes. The great shared winter space becomes quieter. You still sleep near the same wall. The platform feels larger. The blanket is folded rather than wrapped tightly around you. Some nights, the fire nearly dies because no one needs a great flame. A few coals are enough. Warmth comes from the season itself. The village has changed. Or perhaps it has revealed another form. Winter showed closeness. Spring shows movement. Soon, summer will show abundance and exhaustion. Autumn will show preparation. Then winter will return. The cycle is not an enemy. It is the shape of life here. Each season asks different questions. Each household answers with what it has learned. One evening, you walk to the ridge alone. The path is clear. Grass grows between stones. The harbor lies open below. From this height, the village looks smaller than it felt in winter. Roofs, fences, fields, the longhouse in the center, the repaired ship at anchor, smoke rising gently. Beyond it, the sea stretches towards places you cannot see, the same sea that hid the missing ship, the same sea that carried it home. You understand now why people fear it. You also understand why they return to it. The horizon is danger and possibility in the same line. Behind you, someone calls from the village. Evening food is ready. You turn back. The path is no longer buried. You know every bend. You know which stone becomes slippery after rain. The longhouse door stands open. Light reaches into the yard. The dog waits beside it. Inside, the meal is simple. Fresh greens, fish, grain from the new trade. The flavor is different from winter. Lighter, sharper. The whole room feels awake. After eating, people remain near the fire, not because they must, because habit has become affection. The hearth no longer saves them from a storm. It still gathers them. Stories begin. The old man prepares another impossible memory. Astrid notices the long pause. She warns everyone. He ignores her. The children move closer. You sit back against the wall. The air is mild. The roof no longer groans beneath snow. Outside, water moves against the shore. Inside, the fire settles. The voices around you become familiar rhythm. You no longer need to follow every word. You know where the stories lead. Away, through danger, back home. The longest winter has ended, not in one moment, not with a command from the sky. It ended through return, the return of water, birds, grass, ships, the return of people to separate homes, the return of work beneath open light, the return of plans beyond survival. You carried the winter one night at a time. Now you may release it the same way. One breath, one thought, one fading sound. The fire will remain. The village will remain. The sea will continue moving beyond the shore. You are not required to watch over any of it. No journey waits for you tonight. No rope needs tying. No roof needs clearing. There is only the longhouse, the soft crack of wood, the weight of a light blanket, the distant murmur of spring water. Let the village become quiet around you. Let the open harbor darken beneath the stars. Let the repaired ship rest at anchor. Let every returning footstep find its home. You may rest now. The work is finished for today. The stores are sufficient. The fields have received their seed. The animals are sheltered. The doors are closed gently. The fire is low. Your breathing slows. The stories drift farther away. The old man's voice becomes no more than tone. A child laughs once. Someone whispers. The dog sighs near the entrance. Beyond the wall, spring rain begins lightly. It touches the roof, soft, steady, not the roar of winter, not the weight of snow, only rain moving across the village. You listen without counting. You breathe without waiting. The night asks nothing from you, and while the water falls upon the roof, you allow your body to grow heavier. Your thoughts loosen. The longhouse holds the darkness safely. The fire gives one final flicker. The harbor remains open. The village sleeps, and you may sleep with it. The rain continues through the night. By morning, the ground is dark and shining. Water gathers in the wheel marks near the shore, and every roof sends a narrow stream towards the earth. The village wakes beneath a softer sky. No one hurries to close the doors. The air is cold, but no longer punishing. Children step outside without being wrapped in layers of wool. Someone complains that they will catch a chill. The children do not listen. They run towards the harbor. Mud reaches their ankles. Their laughter carries farther than it did in winter. The old man sits near the longhouse entrance. He watches them with the expression of someone who intends to complain and has forgotten why. A cup rests between his hands. Steam rises from it. You sit beside him. For a while, neither of you speaks. The village moves around you. A rope is dragged across the yard. A gate opens. A sheep calls from the field. A hammer begins somewhere near the shore. The old man says spring is noisier than winter. You ask whether he prefers the quiet. He considers this. Then says winter is quiet only from a distance. Inside the house, winter was full of sounds. Breathing, coughing, wood settling, children turning in sleep, the scrape of bowls, the fire asking to be fed. He says, silence does not mean absence. Sometimes it means people have learned how to listen. You look towards the harbor. The repaired ship rests at anchor. Its sail is furled. The hull rises and falls slowly. Nothing about it suggests the weeks of fear that once gathered around its absence. Objects do not carry memory in the same way people do. The ship does not remember the storm. It does not remember the island. It does not remember the men who did not return. Those memories live elsewhere. In Torsten's limp, in Astrid's careful packing, in Leif's habit of checking every knot twice, in two empty places beside the winter hearth. The old man says memory is a second weather. You feel it even when the sky has changed. You carry old storms into clear days. You carry warmth into nights that have not yet become cold. Then he drinks from his cup and adds that memory also makes people repeat foolish mistakes. You ask whether he has repeated many. He says only the interesting ones. The long pause tells you not to believe him. The fields demand more work now. The ground has softened enough for planting. Seed grain is measured again. The village gathers before sunrise. The tools are simple, wooden handles, iron edges where iron can be spared, hands that know how deeply the soil must open. You walk with the others towards the field. Mist lies close to the earth. Every blade of grass carries water. The sun appears slowly behind thin cloud. Its light touches the village. For the first time in many months, warmth can be felt directly upon the skin. Not much, enough. The field is divided by memory and markers. One household works beside another. Boundaries matter. So does cooperation. No one household can ignore the drainage of the next. Water crosses ownership. So do animals. So does fire. The work begins. Soil turns. Stones emerge. Roots pull. Against the tools, the rhythm becomes steady. Lift, press, turn. The smell of earth rises. Rich, cold, alive. After months of smoke, wool, dried fish, and enclosed air, the scent feels almost overwhelming. The whole village seems to breathe more deeply. Even the old man has come to the field. He contributes little labor. He contributes advice. Much of it is ignored. Some of it is useful. He points to one low section where water once remained too long. A shallow channel is cut. Later, rain confirms that he remembered correctly. No one mentions this to him. By midday, the field carries rows. Seed is scattered. Hands move carefully. Every grain represents food that could have been eaten. Instead, it is given to the earth. This is one of the village's oldest acts of faith. The ground receives what the people cannot afford to lose. Nothing answers immediately. No green shoot appears. No promise rises from the soil. The work ends with uncertainty. Still, everyone understands what to do next. Cover, wait, protect. The village has spent an entire winter practicing those three things. Now, the lesson moves from hearth to field. A season changes, but patience remains useful. At the edge of the field, children are assigned to frighten birds. They wave strips of cloth. They shout. They invent threats. The birds wait in nearby trees. They are patient too. The children eventually become distracted. The birds descend. Astrid notices first. She calls the children back to their task. They resume shouting with renewed seriousness. The birds rise again. The struggle will continue for days. Neither side holds a permanent advantage. The village plants. The birds watch. By evening, everyone returns tired. Mud dries on boots. Hands ache. The longhouse feels cool and spacious. The fire is small. Its purpose has changed. It cooks the meal. It no longer defends the whole building from death. A pot of fish stew hangs above it. Fresh greens float beside grain. The food smells lighter than winter meals. The bowls are filled generously. Work creates hunger faster than cold. People eat quietly. The silence is different from winter silence. It is not fear, it is exhaustion. After the meal, few stories are told. The old man begins one. Halfway through, he forgets the name of his own hero. No one corrects him. He decides the hero never had a name. The story improves immediately. Several listeners fall asleep before the ending. You remain awake near the wall. The blanket rests across your legs. The door is closed, but not barred. Rain touches the roof again. You listen to it. Winter rain sounded like change. Spring rain sounds like growth. The same water, heard through a different season. Days pass. The planted field remains dark. The village waits without staring at it. There is too much else to do. Nets must be repaired. Fish must be caught. Animals must be moved. Roof beams must dry. The repaired ship carries smaller loads along the coast. Leif joins several journeys. Each return becomes less dramatic. This is a good thing. Safety is often repetition without disaster. A boat leaves. A boat returns. The village absorbs the pattern. Torsten teaches Leif more each week, not through lectures, through correction, through tasks given at the correct moment. Leif learns to read wind along the surface of water. A dark line can signal a gust. A change in birds can signal fish. A smell can reveal land before it is seen. Knowledge arrives through the whole body. Eyes, hands, ears, balance, memory. The sea is read, not merely crossed. One afternoon, Torsten invites you aboard. The voyage will be short, only around the headland and back. The harbor is calm. You step into the ship. The hull moves beneath your weight. Land, which felt stable only moments ago, becomes something separate. The village watches from the shore. The crew pushes away. Oars enter the water. The ship glides beyond the shallows. The longhouse grows smaller behind you. The sail is raised. Wind fills the cloth. The movement changes. The boat no longer feels pulled by human effort alone. It leans slightly. Water runs along the hull. The repaired plank disappears beneath the surface, holding firm. Torsten watches your face. He asks whether the sea looks different from here. It does. From the shore, the water was distance. From the ship, it becomes road, depth, motion, and risk. The village is now the thing beyond reach. The headland rises ahead. Dark rock, low grass, birds nesting along the edge. As the ship passes it, the harbor disappears. For a few moments, no house can be seen, no smoke, no field, only water and coast. Leif stands near the sail. He no longer looks like the young man who nearly lost the night fire. Responsibility has settled into his movements. He checks rope without being told. He watches the sky. When Torsten speaks, Leif answers briefly. There is no wasted pride. The journey turns before the next bay. The sail shifts. The hull responds. The repaired ship carries you home. The village reappears gradually. First smoke, then roofs, then figures near the shore. From the water, the settlement looks vulnerable. A handful of buildings beneath an enormous sky. A thin line between field and sea. Yet, you know what lies within those roofs. Stores counted carefully. Tools repaired. Stories carried. hands that know how to rebuild. A small village can contain a great deal of endurance. Size is not the same as strength. The ship reaches the harbor. Ropes are thrown. Feet return to earth. The ground feels strangely still. That evening, the sea continues moving inside your body. When you lie down, the longhouse seems to rise and fall. The sensation slowly fades. The memory remains. Now you understand why sailors sometimes wake on land and listen for water. The body learns rhythms more quickly than it forgets them. The same is true of winter. Even in spring, you wake once expecting wind against the wall. There is none, only birds before dawn. The longhouse is quiet. Your hand reaches towards the blanket, then relaxes. Cold no longer waits beyond every edge. The season has moved on. One morning, a child enters carrying the first green shoot from the planted field. Astrid tells him he should not have pulled it. His pride disappears. The old man rescues him. He says one shoot has come as a messenger. The others will follow. Astrid says the messenger would have been more useful in the ground. The child returns to the field and attempts to replant it. No one expects it to survive. Everyone lets him try. Soon, more shoots appear, thin lines of green, then many. The field begins to change color. People walk beside it without stepping too close. The crop remains fragile. Rain may fail. Birds may take too much. Cold may return. Growth is not safety. It is possibility made visible. The village accepts both hope and caution. No feast is held for the shoots. No one ignores them either. Each morning, someone checks. As spring deepens, the nights shorten. Darkness arrives late. People remain outside until the light fades completely. The longhouse loses its winter authority. It no longer contains every conversation. Stories move to doorways, boats, fields, and shore. Meals are sometimes eaten outside. Children fall asleep under open sky before being carried indoors. The fire becomes smaller still. You notice how quickly a place can change without moving. The same walls, the same roof, a different season. In winter, every person faced inward, towards flame, towards food, towards one another. Now bodies turn outward, towards field, towards sea, towards distance. This outward movement carries excitement. It also creates separation. People leave for longer hours. Some travel to nearby farms. Others spend nights fishing. The close winter household becomes a network spread across the landscape. Connection must work across distance again. Astrid sends food with those who leave. She remembers who needs what. A larger portion for field work. Dry cloth for the boat. Her authority moves through bundles. A household can be managed even when its members are scattered. Care becomes preparation. The old man remains near the longhouse more often now. The field paths tire him. His stories attract fewer listeners during daylight. He pretends not to mind. One evening, you find him alone beside the hearth. The fire is almost out. He holds the bone comb that belonged to his mother. The three-note melody rests quietly in the room. You sit near him, he says. Spring steals everyone. Winter returns them. You ask whether he looks forward to the next winter. He says, no sensible person looks forward to winter. Then he smiles. but he looks forward to the people coming home. The answer remains with you. Winter was not only cold, it was closeness made necessary. Spring brings freedom. Freedom has its own distances. Neither season offers everything. The village lives by moving between them. The old man asks whether you will still be here when snow returns. You do not answer immediately. The long pause belongs to you now. He recognizes it. He says you are learning to invent. You tell him you are remembering. He says the two are cousins. Outside, the last light fades. The workers return. Voices approach the longhouse. The old man puts away the comb. Within moments, the room fills again. Mud, laughter, complaints. A broken tool, a successful catch, a child demanding food before removing wet shoes. The old man looks at you. Spring has returned everyone for the night. That is enough for him. The meal is prepared quickly. Fish cooks over the fire. Bread is warmed. Fresh milk is shared. The taste is rich. After winter, the children drink too quickly. White lines remain above their lips. Someone laughs. The evening becomes lively. Torsten describes a new route for summer trade. Eirik considers it. Astrid asks about stores. Leif claims the wind will favor them. The old man asks whether Leif has personally spoken with the wind. Leif says they are close friends now. The old man warns him that the wind keeps poor company. Everyone speaks at once. The room feels full again. You realize that history is often imagined as a line, one event following another, one ruler replacing the next. Life here feels more like a circle. Fire, field, sea, departure, return, winter, spring. The people do not stand outside the circle and observe it. They live inside it. The pattern gives meaning because it repeats. A child born this spring may one day tend the fire. A young sailor may become the old man beside the hearth. A repaired ship may become timber in another building. Nothing remains identical. Nothing disappears completely. The village is a place of transformation. Later that night, the longhouse quiets. The fire is allowed to sink. No one fears losing it now. Another flame can be made in the morning. That simple fact changes the darkness. Winter fire was continuity. Spring fire is convenience. The same ember carries a different weight. You lie down. The room holds the warmth of bodies rather than a great hearth. The roof above is clear of snow. The walls no longer tremble beneath wind. A night bird calls beyond the field. Water touches the shore. Someone near the door whispers and then becomes still. Sleep approaches easily. Yet the story of the village continues around you, not in words. In small sounds, a rope moved by wind, a sleeping animal, a wooden wall cooling after daylight. You allow each sound to pass. Nothing requires interpretation. Nothing signals danger. The missing ship has returned. The winter stores were enough. The roof held. The fire survived. The field has been planted. The sea is open. The village has crossed from darkness into light. There is no final victory over winter. It will come again. That knowledge does not weaken the present warmth. It gives it shape. The people enjoy spring because they remember cold. They value open water because they remember ice. They notice green because they remember white. Memory deepens comfort. You do not need to forget the storm in order to rest. You only need to know that it has passed. The wind may return another night. Snow may cover these paths another year. Another ship may one day be late, but not tonight. Tonight, every boat expected in the harbor is present. Every occupied house carries light. The animals are sheltered. The field rests beneath gentle rain. The doors are closed without fear. Your breathing becomes slower. The longhouse grows softer around you. The edges of the room fade. The old man's voice returns in memory. Not a particular story, only its rhythm. Astrid's footsteps pass once near the hearth. Torsten turns in sleep. Leif murmurs something about rope. The dog lifts its head, listens, then lowers it again. Nothing is outside. Nothing approaches. The village is secure. You let the weight of your body settle fully. The platform supports you. The wool beneath your head smells faintly of smoke. The smell no longer belongs to danger or survival alone. It belongs to familiarity, to shelter, to nights safely crossed. Beyond the roof, clouds move slowly. The stars appear and disappear. The sea reflects what light it can. The repaired ship rests in the harbor. Its ropes tighten, then loosen. Tighten, then loosen. The rhythm is steady, like breath, like sleep. You follow it without effort. In, out, near, far. Wakefulness, rest. The village asks nothing more from you. You have watched the ridge, listened for sails, shared winter food, and seen the first grass rise. Now there is only a quiet night, a small fire, an open sea, and a sleeping village. Let the day release you. Morning will bring fields, boats, muddy paths, new stories, and all the small duties of the season. None of them belongs to this hour. For now, the village rests beneath gentle rain. The longest winter has become a story beside a smaller fire. No one will wake you for the watch. No horn will sound from the ridge. The roof is safe, the sea is open, and the village will still be here in the morning. Sleep now. Good night.